over the name?
Yeah, I think so. Towards the top right corner, you might be able to change someone's audio. I know that there are some people who say it won't let them, but
It probably just depends on your browser.
yeah. But if there's somebody audio who's too loud, just let me know, and I should be able to change it. What's up, Fanatic?
Hey, how's it going? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect.
Most everybody's already live here. Let's see.
Can I just ask what the name of the show is so I can just put it in my title?
Yeah, it's called Twitch Politics Panels. It's on Foolery. Yeah, it's what we're working with for right now. Here, I'm gonna mute City Cat for just a second. No, it's not City Cat either.
It might be no comment chick. I just heard somebody typing.
Is that it?
Yes, it is you.
Huh. You must be getting my microphone. You must be getting my microphone pre noise filter then.
Yeah, you're getting a little bit of an echo as well. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Because we're not on Discord, it's not using the Discord mic filter, so that might be what's going on.
Well, we do have here. Let me pull up your
suppression.
So we do have echo cancellation, and we have automatic volume adjustments on there. So it is supposed to do it automatically on.
Okay, never mind. My bad.
I mean, I just checked, and everybody's is turned on. And then let's see if anybody else wants me to send their links to the chat. Just put them in the private chat off to the right, and I will send them out. We'll get started in about 2 minutes. If anybody wants to run to the bathroom or grab something to drink real quick, we can wait a minute.
Nice.
All right, cool.
Got to stay hydrated.
I'm dropping Art's Twitter handle in the chat for him.
What?
I said I dropped Art's Twitter handle.
Okay. And then, I posted this on Twitter and tagged most of you in it. I didn't have everybody's Twitter handles. So if you want to just go to my Twitter and reshare it, you can. All right, we got everybody here. Okay, so we're missing K Fellows and Pyro right now. They should be here in just a little bit. In the meantime, appreciate everybody for joining us. We're gonna go around and let you guys introduce yourselves real quick. There's Pyro. Okay. There we go. All right. So we'll let you guys go around and introduce yourselves. We'll go from top to bottom, left to right. So we'll start with you, Cypher. Go ahead.
All right. Hey everybody, my name is Cypher. I am the host and moderator of the Crowdsourced Politics podcast. We stream to Twitch once a week for a news roundup, and we release an episode or 2 episodes a month on all your favorite streaming services. So go ahead and check us out. We cover a variety of political topics, trying to get all the kind of analysis only the crowd can provide.
So what do you guys talk about on there? I've heard a lot. When did you guys start this actually?
It was last year, 2019, or 2019 actually. So it's almost going to be about 2 years in August. We kind of started off because I kind of always wanted to do it. We were, me and the other people on were kind of running a debate community, and people were like, yeah, let's go ahead. Let's do it. So
and you just do random panels where you talk about news?
So the news roundup is weekly. So we cover from Wednesday of the previous week to Wednesday of the current week. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern. When we can. Tonight we had to cancel due to a bunch of technical difficulties. The podcast itself, where we just do audio, is a variety of different topics. We've covered things like cancel culture, the Libyan civil war, which Turing News was on as a guest. We covered MMT. We covered gun debates. So we covered just a whole host of different topics.
Cool. Okay. No comment shit.
Hey everybody, I am No Comment Chick. I am a Twitch streamer. I don't know if I should even say that. As of like right now, I think my Twitch views and my YouTube views are pretty much equal. So I've done Twitch for a long time. I'm just starting on YouTube, and the YouTube's kind of blowing up. We do debate analysis is my main gig. Watching other people debate, making commentary on it, annoyingly talking over the boys, so that my YouTube commenters can't hear and they yell at me in the comments. But it's okay because the rest of everybody likes me. So that's what we're doing. We cover, what's going on with BreadTube and other streamers like that, and also like to get into the issues that they're talking about. It's a way of inserting my view into the discourse, which is what we're all here for, right? So yeah, that's what I do and who I am.
Awesome. Appreciate you joining us. And then we got Art Black.
Howdy. So I am more traditionally a Facebook debater, trying to get into more of the online, YouTube, Twitch thing. So we're trying to get off my butt and do that. Former military, the defense contractor, then corporate sellout. Kind of describe myself as a cocaine communist. You've heard of a champagne socialist. I'm a little notch above that. I like long walks on the beach, candlelit dinners, and bullying conservatives on Twitter.
All right. Appreciate it. The City Cat. Appreciate you joining us.
Hi. So I am the City Cat. I host a kind of an anti-panel, more of a hangout type deal once a week on my stream with Twitch poll streamers, and it's more about making friends and discussing ideas than it is debating, because I feel like all of us need a more chill space that is less about yelling at each other and more about just getting to know each other, so that when we do debate each other, it's a bit more friendly. It's a feminist-led space where people can feel safe, and I think that's somewhere that a lot of people need it, and I'm really happy that we're doing that now. I'm a cat girl. I'm a fucking adorable, and I'm really happy to be here today. So thank you so much for having me on.
Sorry, I was very late on the production there. I was
That's okay.
Sending out everybody's links. You guys, I guess we rated into your panel last night. You had you had A4 Andre on there, who I hadn't seen in forever. I didn't know he was still around.
He's a good friend of mine. We've been talking a lot. He's been doing his Pokemon stuff, so it was really, really good to get him back into the Twitch poll community and reunite with a few of his old friends. It was really, really nice.
Cool. That's cool. All right, GKR, what you got for us, man? All right. And then we got Jola. Jola, actually, I've been watching you for a while, man. I really enjoy your content. Yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And thank you for having me on. So I'm Jola. My big focus is I'm a progressive from a rural area. I'm trying to get rural America to accept more progressivism. So that's what I talk about on my channel, a sort of pragmatic politics. And I also do some like React stuff to like Destiny and Vosh debates, like no comment chick, purely for algorithm reasons. Because if you talk about regular policy stuff on YouTube, I'm mainly on YouTube. If you talk about regular policy stuff, as all of you probably know, you're not going to get clicks. You need to have some type of clickbait or something. But yeah, that's what I do.
True. Yeah, that's the secret I figured out recently on YouTube, is I started putting out like Alex Jones videos and Candace Owens videos. Oh my goodness, dude. I got so many subs just from putting them in the title. So yeah,
do a Caitlin Bennett video.
Oh, that's that. I think I did one, but like I had been, what do you call it? Where you're like, where they put you way down at the bottom of like search results.
Mhm.
I forget what they call it, like ghost band or shadow band. I've been shadow banned for like the last year, so finally I'm back in the search results. Mr. Fanatic, appreciate you joining us again, man. What you got for us?
I mean, what I got for y'all is just my latest song. It's called Araya, because I do music. I'm a pianist. I have what I would, yeah, I don't know. I just have a pretty decent ear. Um, I, I do Twitch politics, just kind of talking about, systemic oppression and just various issues. I don't really consider myself to be left or right. I think both sides pretty much do some ridiculous things, but I probably argue. It seems like I'm always arguing for the left now, which is kind of gross to me because I used to be a Republican. But yeah, I don't know. I do politics. I've done video games. I'm a retired fighting game pro. I did that for like 10 years or so. I have the biggest money match in history for 50 grand. I don't know. I'm just, I just kind of play life by ear like I do the piano. I just, whatever comes up. Right now I'm into politics and Slay the Spire. Who knows? Maybe, and now I'm into hiking. That's like my super passion right now. I don't know. I'm just always into something new.
Bro, I completely feel you. I had been a Republican my whole life, but it seems like they're all conspiracy theorists now, and I just can't take their side on anything. Like,
Yeah, bro, it sucks.
I wish they would do like start making sense. Like, I really like. I'm like, guys, please say something like with some sanity, so I can take your side once in a while. Like, I hate
Right.
siding with the lefties all the time. These have been my enemies my entire life. Like,
It's gross, man. You can't do anything about it because I don't know what the freak is going on, man. It hurts.
I don't know what the freak is going on either. All right.
You do
This is cancel culture. This is
once.
cancel culture, unironically.
You do an insurrection once, and suddenly you're not a viable member of society. Ooh, I don't like democracy now. Get please.
All right, Pyro, what you got for us, man?
Absolutely nothing. My name is Pyro, and
All
for the
right.
last 7 weeks or so, I've been trying to get my computer up and running for streaming and shit. So I finally got that down, and now I'm planning on the most bullshit meme debates panel I can imagine. So look forward to that because I think that's going to be fun.
True. Okay, appreciate you joining us. And then K Fellows, you just got done with your modern day debate with is it Ariel Scarcelli?
Ariel
Is that how you-
Scarcella.
Ariel
Yeah.
Scarcella? Yeah. How did that go?
It went well. It was a little weird.
Yeah. Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
What's up, everybody? I'm Kay. I am a political activist of sorts, and I stream occasionally here on Tom's channel because that's all I have time for.
True. Here, let me see if I can make these bigger if everybody's in the center of their screen. Oh no, that's not good. Okay, we'll leave it at that. All right. So yeah, did anybody have a topic that they wanted to start off with?
I'm up for anything.
All right. So
We got conservatives and leftists complaining about kids in cages.
kids in cages. Yeah, I heard somebody mention that earlier. Why don't you tell us about kids in cages?
So basically, the Biden administration has reopened a facility that was previously closed down due to essentially lack of use, and a lot of the people on the left side of the spectrum when it comes to immigration policy are up in arms about it, and there's a lot of conservatives concerned trolling about it now because they want to be able to poke at liberals and be like, oh, wasn't cool when it was Trump, but it's cool when it's Obama, right? I mean, or Biden, right? So
Yeah, I think.
I mean, I don't know. Look. I've heard that Republican talking point quite a bit, where they're always just like, yeah, but Obama built the cages, yada 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 yada. Was there any record of Obama separating families and putting children in the cages? Because it almost seems like a ridiculous argument. Like somebody is going around like a chainsaw murderer, and then someone's like, but who invented the chainsaw? And it's like, that's not
Like,
the argument here.
I would steal Man Fanatic's point even more. I'd just be like, is there any record of Obama setting up these cages? And he did do that. Putting these people in these cages, and he did do that. But then being like, you know what? We're gonna do this more because it'll decentivize them from coming here. Did Obama ever have that like leak out of his administration over the 8 years?
Negative. And then they went through it anyways.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Gotcha.
So their intelligence went out. There just wasn't any of that on the other side.
No, well, of course they had like one brain cell, and it was all locked up in Trump's head.
Like, and Steve Miller was controlling it.
Yeah.
Exactly. But to be my Libra self here a little bit, let me steel man the other side here. The kind of thing that the Obama administration did, they were trying to do as much due diligence as possible with the children in order to make sure that they didn't get sent to incorrect families, didn't get sent to like forced labor camps and things like this. And yet that still kind of happened. So I don't know exactly what people are expecting to happen with this.
I think we could all agree it's like just a pretty fucking shit idea in practice. Like, we've seen how it's handled. Like, I don't really agree with any of it. When I'm looking about like the different administrations and why they've done it, like I look at it exactly like that. The Obama administration talked about this as a disincentive, and they were like, yeah, no, that's actually literally fucking inhumane. Ew, get it out of here. But it still kind of ended out that way in the same. Like, I look at that like, wow, you tried to do a good thing, but you failed miserably. Whereas like with the Trump administration, like we saw the fucking leaks. It's like, yo, this is good. This is fucking great. Keep them out of here. Get it? Like, this is gonna keep them out of here. They did it specifically. I mean. But like, yeah, like we saw like the inner memos and shit, and it's like, should we do this terrible, inhumane thing to de-incentivize them? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. It's gonna work bigly. It's gonna go great. And I'm just like, that's a lot worse than like Barack Obama. Like, maybe we can fix this problem if we come at it, and like failing, and someone doing it like on purpose. Like, Jesus fucking Christ, you did it on purpose.
Yeah, I'm never gonna criticize someone, and I'm not a big Obama fan, but I'm never gonna criticize someone for like a thought entering their head. Like, this is a problem. It's been ongoing. Can this be a solution? I'm not gonna criticize someone. I don't even know that he's gonna be the individual. It's like, let's put these people in cages. You know what I mean? I'm probably someone that's a little bit more right leaning that came up with that idea. But in any case, the fact that it was like posited. I'm never going to be upset at that, because you quickly realized before you did it, this is not okay. Like the fact that we were actually the fact that it happened, like to the outcry of like the vast majority of the country, like on deaf ears, as these children have been like traumatized. It's wild. It's wild that that's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
Yes. Flores Amendment. It was the Flores in the 90s. So that happened under Clinton, and the courts made it to where you can't keep a child in detention for more than 30 days. No, they were doing that. No, they were doing that. So that's the thing here. So what happened under the Obama? No, so what was happening under the Obama administration? This was I want to say it was like 2012 or so. There was literally thousands of kids coming across the border a day. It was overwhelming the system. It was overwhelming the foster care system, the nonprofit system, and the system used in order to pair the child with relatives in the United States. So they literally did not have the resources in order to quickly find their parents or somebody else to take care of them. You're talking kids that might not even know who their family member is. They might have had a note and got it lost or didn't speak English. So the entire system was just completely overwhelmed. And they did, I don't want to say the best that they could, because, they can always do better, but they did reasonably okay with that. Now, there was completely fucked up shit that happened. Like, don't get me wrong. There was the instance in like 2015 or so where a group of people agreed to take kids in. They were verified. They're like, okay, cool. They have like the space. They've taken care of kids before, whatever. Ended up being a forced labor camp to have to pick eggs from a farm. Like a massive industrial farm. And this is the biggest one that ended up getting like blowing up on the Obama administration. And that was them trying to actually do the right thing.
Yeah, I think it's important to like kind of like keep that distinction clear, like we're saying, between like trying to do the right thing and failing, and just like having the worst of intentions from the get-go, like with Trump.
There we go.
There's a danger here in the way that we frame it, in that people in this country are already black-pilled enough. I don't mean that in the MGTOW sense. I mean black pill is in just like they are already kind of given up, like, kind of in a nihilistic nihilistic state of mind, so to speak. And so like anything that pushes that narrative more to like, like you'd think it would be better under Biden, huh? Looks like it's not. Looks like it's the same damn thing. It's all one, horrible, reality that we're dealing with. That incentivizes people to either just like turn off or to like lash out without really thinking. In like, we've seen this like with like lefties, kind of giving like tacit support to like what was going on. It wasn't a lot of lefties, right? It was like distinct individuals, but like, like talking about the kind of thirsting after the terrorists that were in the Capitol on January 6th. In a sense of like, well, I fucking hate the establishment so much. As long as these people are putting it in the eye of the establishment, I'm on board. And it's important to kind of like not get into that, like, everything's lost, like nothing matters sort of frame of mind through the idea that it's the same. It's not exactly the same. I mean, like the shit that Trump was doing to these kids is on a whole nother level of, deprivation and, essentially torture. And, like the Biden thing is fucked up and it's less than ideal. And it sucks that we do have this like framework, even under a supposedly progressive government. But we do have to remember that there's a huge world of difference between like what we're dealing with now and what we were dealing with back before January.
Yeah, and another point to mention about this is that right before 2020, the Trump administration removed any quote unquote non-essential things from these facilities. So when the Obama administration built up these facilities, they had things like rec rooms, entertainment rooms, private spaces. They had teachers. They had English teachers, so they were teaching the kids English as well as teaching them things in their native tongue, and all this. Trump got rid of all of that. Completely decimated the entire thing. They said they ran out of budget money, which might be true given the budget was passed under Republicans, but it was another thing to try to like disincentivize people crossing the border just in general.
Wasn't one of the big problems right now is that they don't know what to do with all of these people? Like they're wanting to empty it out, but there's nowhere to send them.
That's one thing that because like I looked into this when Biden first took office, because I was like, yeah, what the fuck is gonna happen with these people in like the middle of COVID? And the one thing they said is like, the Trump administration was really obviously fucking terrible at like writing shit down and keeping track of it, especially when it comes to a group of people. Well, let's be honest, they don't give two shits about. Why the fuck would they detail where these people came from and whose parents are who, and like have a plan in case something like this happened? And now Biden's team has to come in and like try and figure out this fucking mess. And this is like a logistical mess. Like, nothing they do is gonna be good, because like they're not working with anything to start with.
So
And there's
quick,
been an increase in unaccompanied minors coming across the border as well. I don't know if that corresponds to Biden's election or if that predates it due to COVID. One of the reasons why they're reopening this facility is to try to uncramp some of the other facilities to make COVID less of an issue.
So well,
yeah, it's both.
here, real quick, Jola, what would you suggest they do with all of these camps right now?
I think this is a situation where, for example, lefty Twitter and lefty media can be sort of dishonest because you see the headline, Joe Biden opens up new facilities, when in reality, like Cypher was saying, there are a lot of people. More facilities means more spacing, better accordance to COVID guidelines. The conditions in these facilities are much better. They aren't given foil blankets anymore. They're given actual blankets and pillows, which is a big improvement. And this is really, I'm not saying it's the best the Biden admin can do, but this is also something that serves for the safety of the kids, because there is a big issue of child sex trafficking at the border. That does happen if we don't give kids a proper place and a safe place to live. So, and also when we talk about the process of asylum seeking and everything, Donald Trump did not let the actual legal processes play out for anybody that was coming over. Joe Biden is doing that. So this is a lot better than obviously what Trump was doing. And I really, this is another issue that annoys me with like lefty Twitter, like, oh, read the headline, get mad about it, don't look at the policy detail, because this stuff is really complicated.
All right, we're gonna kick it over to City Cat real quick.
Yeah, thanks. So you guys talking about like the Obama administration and stuff like that. I am 19 and also Australian, so that was a bit for my involvement in politics. But yeah, so from what I've read really quickly, I've seen lots of different headlines from different people. And from conservative outlets, it feels like it's being framed as like, oh, he's reopened up the camp. And from really lefty outlets, it's people are saying that he's opened up a new thing, but it sounds like there's somewhere in between where it's, yeah, he's reopened the old one, but it's different now. They're being treated much better, and it's being used like mainly for kids who are coming across, teenagers who are unaccompanied minors, and also because all of the other facilities are way too cramped because of COVID. They want to spread people out more. And yeah, and I think that they're having more unaccompanied minors now because like families are dying of COVID. So I'm assuming that might be a reason why there's more unaccompanied minors coming around. Yeah, but it feels like they've just like renovated the facility in some kind of way so that it's not like kids in cages anymore.
Well, we're gonna check in with K Fellows real quick, and then we'll go to Art Black.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that it's just an issue of like who's sitting in the White House either. I mean, it plays a huge part in this. But you also have to like take in consideration like who is running these facilities. Joe Biden isn't running these facilities.
That's true.
ICE is. And ICE is incredibly problematic. I don't think there's a single person on this panel that would disagree that ICE is incredibly, there are so many problems with ICE, and those issues were not being addressed in any way, shape, or form under the Trump administration. I mean, you had a nurse, a whistleblower come forward and saying that non-English speaking women were being coerced into signing consent forms for hysterectomies, like they did not realize what was going to happen to them, and they had their reproductive systems removed without knowing what was going to happen to them. You have issues of, sexual assault and rape being rampant in young women, even girls in these facilities. Like, having somebody in the White House that is going to address these issues with the people that are running these facilities is like the big thing. I don't believe it was in the thousands. I do believe we're looking at dozens. But because of yes, yes, like regardless of the number, even if it was just one woman who was forced sterilized is like a problem. But I don't think that it's been happening for so long that they've managed to rank up those numbers into the thousands.
It was done at a Georgian facility that had problems previously under the Obama administration that they got reprimanded for. You can look up the articles on it. ProPublica did an amazing job about reporting this and getting the story out there for the whistleblower and helping them be protected from retaliation. So I would just go ahead and Google that if you're interested in learning more.
Art Black.
Okay, so there's no way to get good results out of a bad plan, but the one way to get much worse results out of it is to not resource it right. So what we're doing, just trying to control the border at all in this fashion, is guaranteed to create problems. But when you're trying to do that, even if you're trying to do an honest job at it, if you don't have the right resource for it, when you have this volume of people coming across, you're going to just create conditions where even people who, if ICE was trying to do a level, legitimate, good job, they wouldn't have the tools for it. So you would wind up with situations like this where you just have, this theoretically honest organization that just can't do better. They don't have the resources to do better or the leeway to do better. And this is me being ridiculously generous. But even focusing on this at all about like kids in cages or like the hysterectomies or things like that, it's easy to personalize problems at that scale. But if you take a step back and think about why do we have these people coming in the first place? Why is this imbalance existing in the first place? And you step back and say, well, you have these refugees from the war on drugs, from American imperialism or adventurism from the Cold War on forward that destabilizes these countries or otherwise economically makes it so that they have undesirable conditions where fleeing north makes sense. It's something where we, in large part, create these conditions and then get upset that these conditions exist and try to put up walls or hostile camps to put people in or otherwise complain about it. But even at that scale, America has about 330 million people. We have maybe 15 to 20 million undocumented folks in the US. And to go back a little ways, Reagan gave amnesty to 3 million people back in 1986, just complete amnesty. But like No Comment Chick was saying, like the American public is so black-pilled right now that can you imagine Biden giving Romney Biden. Can you imagine Biden giving amnesty to 3 million people? Like the wheels would fall off this country. Like everyone would lose their minds. But like Ronald Reagan, like King Conservative did that back in the day, and it was just like, well, we tried it, it didn't work. Like, unfortunately, the discourse has gotten so far off the rails towards things which are terrible, like kids in cages. That's a terrible problem. But the scale of this, those are just stand-ins for these arguments we don't want to have about these millions of people that we have displaced and now have coming to us for material conditions that are problems that we've just created. So unfortunately, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, do you know, like, speaking of that, like in terms of the, we were talking about the teenagers that were coming across the border unaccompanied during the end of the Obama administration. I do remember something happening in Honduras where there was actually like a coup that they found out later was somewhat supported by, the U.S. government, meaning, the State Department and Hillary Clinton. And that destabilization had something to do with the kind of like crime environment that was going on there, where if you did have a teenager, they would probably either be, taken into a gang or they would be, likely, the victim of gang violence. Like do you think that had that was that like wave of immigration?
Well, absolutely. Yes, but this has just been an unbroken chain for the last 100 years of different meddling. Either from just military intervention, which is direct, to indirect things like the CIA operations, like you're talking about, to just the war on drugs, which is this constant. Imagine trying to run a legitimate government down there where you have these cartels that can destabilize you, paying off people, creating corruption. It's hard to get a legitimate footing when you have the U.S. up here, and then they're basically by proxy creating either rebel groups or criminal groups that are undermining you left and right. We're not giving that region a fair shake, and we never have. And then we get mad when the refugees show up at our door.
No comment, Chick, if you want to. Go ahead, Fanatic, and then we'll go to Cypher and then Pyro.
I do think, though, that there is a problem with this incentivization, though, because, like, what was it recently? So California just recently passed, like, a stimulus bill. And in that stimulus bill, they basically said that they would be giving out, like, stimulus checks to, like, California residents and whatnot. But then they would be, so California residents would be getting, like, a $600 stimulus check from the state. But anyone who wasn't able to get one because of like illegal, because they were like illegal or anything, they're giving them $1,200. So illegal immigrants in this state will be getting double from the state, like what what the residents are getting. It does sound like a little bit of an incentivization. I can understand why that kind of thing right there in the middle of this pandemic, when people are literally starving and the state's been this deleterious and like actually addressing the issue, and then you address the issue by making sure you're taking care of them as well. I can understand how that kind of messaging is going to rub quite a few people the wrong way.
That's not a problem with like immigration or anything. That's like a problem with your government. Like I'm all for like taking care of like illegal immigrants in your area or whatever, but like that would be a problem I'd like bring with my local, like, yo, what, like, one, if we're going to be taking care of these people, cool, why the fuck aren't you giving us more money too then? Like,
I can't comment on that.
You're right.
Oh, that's the reasoning.
Right.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's the reasoning, but it doesn't address anything.
Yeah, that doesn't actually fix the
No, because okay, so
that doesn't fix the incentive.
It doesn't address the incentive, and then two, again, these are separate things. What the federal government is doing has nothing to do with what our state is doing. It has nothing to do with what our taxes are being funded for. No. I'm sorry. It only indirectly. I'm sorry. Let me just clarify. So it indirectly has something to do with it in the sense that the state is incentivized to do this for these people because of the fact that the federal government isn't. However, it doesn't change the fact that funds that should be used for residents of California are now being used for illegal immigrants in California, which is something that is independent.
Well, the issue is
they're not legal residents.
The issue is from the perspective. The issue is from the perspective of the typical
the check doesn't
person.
Stop the spread of COVID. What are you talking about?
Well, it stops a lot, though. It stops people who are going to fall into other more expensive government programs. So the reason you give people money in the first place is so they don't wind up consuming other government resources in ways that are way less efficient.
Right. But the problem with the average person is going to look at this and they're going to see that the person is being rewarded for breaking the law. That's how they're going to view this. It doesn't matter if the federal government.
I mean, that kind of consideration might or might not apply in a normal situation, depending on what your moral priorities, I guess, are. But I feel like in a situation like this, where their well-being is also tied to everyone else's well-being, it's like crazy how obsessed with the punitive aspect of oh, but they were doing something wrong though, you shouldn't benefit from doing something wrong, Fivehead. You know what I mean? At a time like this, it's just seems crazy. It's just who would think of that, in an emergency situation? And I think that also clues us into the fact that that's not the only issue where our fates are tied together, where our welfares affect each other. I think we can all think of for instance, the unhoused homeless crisis. People, even rich people, probably hate going out into public spaces and seeing a whole bunch of unhoused homeless people, complaining about the smell and this, that, and putting it all on them, when in reality it's our system that's creating that crisis that reduces the quality of life for all of us. So I don't know, there's a little too much of, not being conscious of how we're all sort of.
I wanted to say this earlier because Art Black hit up a really good point about the countries that's have a lot of migrants to the south of us we have been fucking with for the past 100 or so years, and that's just something that's true with United States history in general. We've done a lot, regardless of whatever side of the argument you're on, we fucked over a lot of groups of people for our own fucking benefit. Good or bad, that's up to you to decide. But then the other side is we decided it was easier to try and vilify those people rather than being yo, yeah, we kind of did this terrible shit, now let's kind of fix it. And we've been kicking that ball down the road, but it's not like a kickball, it's a snowball, and every time you kick it, it gets bigger and heavier and more fucking dense, and sooner or later we're gonna break our fucking leg.
All right, we're gonna go to Art Black and then Jola and then Cypher.
Oh, actually, I'll go to Cypher.
Or do you want to go to Jola first?
Or whoever. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sure. One big thing to consider as well, with American society is we have such an issue for Americans, and I'm sure we all agree that there is a big issue, or most of it, or generally agree that there is sort of a xenophobia issue. There is an issue with Americans thinking like, why is the government helping these people that aren't Americans without helping their own citizens? This is going to be a big prevailing thought, and at the same time, we already can't get people to care about people who don't have homes right now. In America. So asking those same people who may be like, say, white working class voters to care about the people coming over from the border is going to be a big, big task. And I'm not sure exactly how to get that messaging across because, of course, Donald Trump was the big boogeyman. Like, oh, this is the worst. He's openly going to be saying these bigoted things. He's openly going to be a crazy conspiracist. But now we get back to the really implicit issues within our system. And, Americans don't really know what America has done with foreign policy to create like refugee crises and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, to piggyback off of both Pyro and Jola's point, there are things the United States does at the benefit of its own citizens that have second and third knock-on effects on the rest of the world. For example, and this is something that nobody really talks about much outside of policy wonk circles, our agricultural subsidies completely decimated the entire subsistence and farm industry of Mexico. Our dams in the United States to provide a lot of our hydroelectricity have caused over the last 50 years entire waterways to dry up in Mexico, compounding the issue. And these are things that people did not know about 50 years ago. And they just are finding about it now, and they're having to work on ways to like revitalize these areas for waterways, vegetation, everything. And these are just things that people don't ever think about, and it just goes on to the snowball effect. Like that's why you have so many migrants from Mexico coming up. It's because people that were subsistence farmers or were growing things and selling it to market can't anymore because now they either can't grow it or our subsidies price them out of the market.
And like we can blow that up to just like a lot of issues that everyone kind of points to in American society. Well, why do we have these issues? Oh, because 50 years ago we did a really dumb fuck thing, and now we're reaping the consequences of it. Like,
yep.
I don't have a disagreement with any of those things. I really don't disagree with any of those things. I think the United States has been incredibly oppressive in certain ways. I do also recognize how our political system does very much benefit the world in other ways. But yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not going to disagree with that, but I do think, our country, like just our handling of COVID in general, and as far as relief and things are concerned, has been absolutely insane. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. That it took us this long. I mean, this is literally almost a year. And California has been one of the strongest countries when it came to shutdown response in regards to COVID. And even with us doing that, knowing how absolutely, how it's affecting everyone. And I agree with that decision. I mean, Lord, we didn't know what the heck the virus was. We had to respond in that way. I'm fine with that. But like considering how much that's affecting everyone, to take this long to do it is ridiculous. And then to give people $600 checks also sounds absurd. I think that sounds absurd. And then to spend $1,200 on the illegal people in the country, it also sounds absurd considering all of the other aforementioned
So
things.
like I would like a clarification, because like we had one earlier and it really shed a lot of light on it. Is it just for illegal immigrants, or is it for people who cannot get the benefits from the federal government? Because if it's for people who can't get the shit from federal government, well then that's just not illegal immigrants. That's like, people who are dependent. That's fucking college students. That's a lot of people. And like other states where like you can't get
no, but it's people over 18 who couldn't get the other things. So like it wouldn't be just dependents. It's specifically, they even like literally worded it so that people that file with I think a TINF for tax purposes, basically the people, because people who file with a TINF, they don't get they were excluded from the from the federal stimulus bonus. On top of that, we what's it called? People, it's still going to be means tested. So people who didn't qualify for the federal thing for making too much money, they still won't also be getting this thing as well. So it's not just, hey, we're just trying to make sure everyone who missed the federal thing is included. This thing is literally like verbally pretty, not just implicitly, but pretty expressly geared towards illegal immigrants. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, and obviously in California, the only people that are doing that, unless you can show me an example of literally any other person in the country that doesn't have that, like, yeah, why would anyone else do that besides illegal immigrants? Can you give me a reason for that? Because that sounds like not a thing. Hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it'll go ahead.
Yeah, sure.
But that's a federal thing. Hold on, no, but you're mixing two different things.
No,
So that would be a federal thing. The federal government already does a lot of that. No, but the federal government already does that, and I'm always going to be for that. Quiet, it's kept. I'm actually pro illegal immigration. The only reason why I say that is because I understand what those circumstances are like in those in some of the South American countries, and I know for a fact if I was in those situations with their government not doing anything and being completely dominated by the cartel, where I'm raising children and they're unsafe, there's literally nothing, no law that anyone's going to create that's going to stop me from trying over and over and over to get into this country. There's literally nothing you're going to do to stop me from doing that. And I totally understand why they would do that. And then considering the fact that we are one of the wealthiest nations in the world, we do have enough resources if it wasn't for the fact that, yeah, there's just so many problems, right? Like, but so ultimately, the more illegal folks come over here, I'm not going to ever complain about that at the end of the day. And to be honest with you, just like as a Christian, I'm going to be okay with them giving the money to illegal immigrants. I do just recognize how absolutely horrible it's going to be optically, how and all of those things. But like ultimately, like I mean, I donate to charity. Like I'm all for it. Like I don't care in the end. Like do what you got to do. They should be doing more for us, but doing what you do for them, that's fine. Like at the end of the day, it's literally $1,200 from the 5th largest economy in the world. It's not going to hurt anything. We just need to figure out how the freak we're spending our money in the first place and do more for citizens as well. Yeah.
This is the black pill that we were talking about earlier, where you think about how conditioned Americans are to hate poor people. I mean, especially our own, but to say nothing of other, folks from other countries. When you think about what they, immigrants, legal or illegal, contribute to the economy, this is why we bring them in. This is why we have brought them in since the beginning. And as someone whose ancestors literally shot their way into this country, the idea that we can't accept people who want to come here just to legitimately make things better, it never ceases to astound me, how new of a country we are and how arbitrary and how just completely ready we are to completely flip, the script that we never used. And now we're just going to have other people held to these standards that we never held for ourselves. So it kills me. But just on a optical level, Fanatic, I totally get what you're saying as far as you're going to have people look at it and say, oh, well, why are we giving these people something for nothing? Like they shouldn't even be here, yet we're giving away all this stuff. And it's optically bad only because we were conditioned to think bad things, and that's just an unfortunate part of our programming that we need to, overwrite.
Oh yeah, yeah, 100%. Like the thing is, it's a bigger problem. We don't like poor people for some fucking reason. America, as a country with all of its pull itself up by your bootstraps, anyone can be anything. We fucking hate poor people. Even some of the super cool lefties, when they get on their memes and shit, like what are their memes against conservatives? Ah ha ha, you're a poor fucking hick in the middle of nowhere with no fucking teeth or healthcare, blah blah blah. You're making fun of poor people, bro. Like those are the same people you're trying to defend. So like
that's not praxis.
Exactly, right? Like,
Fiscally,
that's not
just in
Y'all,
just in general, when it comes to
I don't
money,
know about
though.
y'all, but I have always depended on the kindness of strangers, Kona.
I'm depending on the kindness of strangers as we speak.
All right, I have to
Mr. Fanatic.
intercede at this point because y'all are making fun of my people now.
No,
So.
no,
It's my
I'm making
people too.
I'm making fun of my people, Memphis, Tennessee.
I have some Kona in me too, y'all.
I'm 1/4 Tennessee, all right? It's okay if I do this. But like, yeah, Art Black hit just like the perfect point. Like, this is like just a part of a bigger problem. Like, America doesn't like poor people. Not even that. We don't like poor people, but we don't like helping poor people, right? Like, it's one thing to not like poor people. I don't like poor people, but my thing is like, yo, I'm gonna give you money, and like, hopefully you won't be what I don't like. And if not, your choice. You have the fucking funds. I'm not, you're American. Live your life. But like, the government is just like, haha, yo, fucking die. Just like, what was it they was telling people during like the beginning of COVID? Like the dude went on TV and was like, yo, grandma might need to die for the economy.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
That fucking cruise in the middle of like hell freezing over. Solidarity from Cancun.
Patrick.
No, I feel you, Pyro, because it's like it's not just that like we're going after these people for any random for being assholes. We're going after them for the shit that like that doesn't make you bad. That like should make me feel sorry for you. That should make me want to help you. But instead, I'm gonna make fun of you for all the things that I think you're weak for, and I'm not gonna, actually like address the issue of like, the problem being like the striking out against like other marginalized people. Like it's a lack of solidarity that's the problem. It's not the fucking red hat or the NASCAR or something.
And like to like bring it back to immigrants, because I do realize I went off on a bit of a tangent. And just like when I see people talking about illegal immigrants, not anyone on this panel, like a lot of people like to focus on like, oh, they're bringing drugs in and crime and and like, dude, we have that in America. Have y'all not been? What's the conservative meme? Detroit, don't go to Detroit. Like we have this shit in America. It's not new. Let's stop pretending. Yeah. I like just looking how we handled this issue in the past. Like at one point we were literally that like, give us your weak, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, blah 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 blah. And now it's just like no, and now it's just like, hey, listen, we don't want any of the shithole countries here. So, like, if only the smart people could come to America, that'd be great. And
don't say
why are we pulling
that was
back?
Trump.
All right,
That was Trump.
I say
that's
we
not us.
as a country, like,
and by smart he meant white.
That was OD.
I think.
All
I
right,
think we could talk.
We're gonna move on to something else.
All
We're gonna
It
get
got
in.
super dark and like dark humorish super quick.
Hey.
No,
We're trying not to take any black pills tonight. Yeah.
So one of the things that Trump promised that didn't come to fruition was getting out of wars, right? Trying to bring all the troops home, not becoming the world police anymore. And it seems as though the United Nations like backs us up every time we want to go out and be the world police. Though there are a lot of bad things that happen in other countries that other countries don't seem to do anything about. Should the United States continue being the world police? And I'm going to go to our correspondent in Australia. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes,
We'll
that's
start
right.
with City Cat.
This is like yet another topic that I can't really talk about like at all. But I don't know anything about this.
So they don't ever do anything in Australia. They don't go
Well,
over
we're
there
like
and mess with
allies
stuff.
with you. You guys don't really mess with us at all.
They're part of
we
the
mess
Five
with
Eyes,
all
guy.
of our
It's
allies.
like Jurassic Park down there. Why would we?
Yeah,
We're American.
we go
not
down there to look
crazy.
at their kangaroos.
Yeah, Trump didn't even come to Australia at all during his whole term. Like we're like strong allies with you guys, and he like talked about coming down, and there were protests. There were like riots in the streets of Australia. We didn't want you guys here, especially him.
Our national
so
bird attacked him.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, there's not really much I can say about this. He doesn't. You guys don't really bother us.
Can I offer a controversial take?
Yeah, go ahead, and then we'll go to GKR.
If we're gonna do world police, I'm all for Monroe Doctrine to Electric Boogaloo. Like, yo, we're gonna take care of this side of the planet and leave the rest of that to like the Europeans, whoever takes the fucking power vacuum. Because what we're doing now by trying to fuck it, like I don't give a fuck.
China,
right? I don't give a fuck. What we're doing now is not fucking working and trying to do the world police thing. I'm all for taking care of these two fucking continents and maybe Greenland, maybe if they like, if they take me out for a nice steak dinner. Like, we still have some countries to play with, but like we're not trying to overextend ourselves to the detriment of like our own citizens, our own backyard and shit, causing trouble in fucking other countries, which like they have to clean up and we have to clean up and shit like that. May not be the best idea, but like, holy shit, we need to start somewhere. And I don't see America just being like, you know what? We're done with the military-industrial complex. Scouts, that's just not going to happen.
No.
What do they even have for steak over there, Caribou?
Yeah, listen, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like, you guys are probably gonna disagree with me a lot. But we make memes about like the U.S. taking care of the rest of the world. But like, man, we were the ones contributing like something like 95% or something stupid to NATO, where like the rest of the countries didn't have to do anything because they knew Big Daddy USA had their backs. So, like, I mean, other people were putting literally like 0.5 to 0.3% of their GDP, while the United States was like putting like 50% or something ludicrous. So then, like, our NATO contributions were insane, while they literally put nothing, all because they were part of NATO and knew, well, if anybody messes with us, then the U.S. is going to go to war with them. So that's going to be the deterrent we have. So we can just go ahead and focus on all of our infrastructure, taking care of our citizens and whatever the freak you want. And I don't know. I feel like
That's
as
my
much as we
design,
want to
though.
talk about how bad the U.S. does, the U.S. does do some things extremely well. And one of those things like is like our defense. And I do think that sometimes that defense comes at the cost of other things that needed to be done for the citizens. But like, we can't downplay the role that the U.S. plays in, like, being the big brother for the rest of the country. For the rest of the
let's
world.
be real. Like, there was something in it for us to be the big brother.
Yeah,
like, we got control out of that. We got to push other countries around. We wanted that.
Sure.
We needed that. We wanted to form the whole world in our image and say, like, we got a capitalist democracy, and you should have a capitalist democracy too.
Yeah, we got kind of what we have today. We're like, America's the superpower. Like, no one can really fuck with us because of our superpowered status and shit like that. Like, this was the goal.
But I
from,
mean,
like,
we were
Teddy Roosevelt.
we weren't
Our
just we were
superpowerness didn't
buying
come
their
from that.
complicity,
Our superpower
kind of.
didn't come from that. Like, the U.S. is a superpower because of our nuclear capability and because of the size of our freaking armada and because of the size of our military industrial complex. Like, we're the superpower because of everything that we're doing for ourselves. We're not the superpower because of our alliances. We pretty much, everyone else wanted to join. Everyone wanted to join. Everyone wanted to be part of NATO, and we were able to influence them.
Yeah, you could get attacked if you're not.
So, like, we could bring up NATO and shit, but, like, what happened that, like, caused NATO to form? What happened where America became that, like, big brother where everyone was like, oh, I want to hang out with them. I want to hang out with them. What were the events that led up to this? What happened in, world history that, like, led to America being seen as the big brother? Where, like,
Us staying out of a war for a really long time until the very end when we could come in and save the day and kind of set the rules, something like that.
Yeah, twice. We did it fucking twice. We stayed out of the war for the majority of it, came in at the end of the day and declared, "Yeah, America, hoorah, yeehaw, giddy up!" And the first time we tried to do the whole UN NATO thing, failed miserably. And then fucking World War II happened, and we got our chance again, and we fucking did it again. Like, yeah, like. It wasn't just like America doing the things out of its best interest led to us naturally becoming a world power. We took advantage of some pretty shit situations, some other countries and shit to do this.
No disagreement.
But I mean, to be fair, like I do want to honor. Oh, sorry. Oh, I do want to honor what you're.
It's on our bot. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We did it again. Sorry, it's Discord. Or it's not even Discord this time. It's something at StreamYards.
It's the NSA.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, like, you know, I want to honor what you're saying about, like, you know, that we did, you know, some good things for sure. We were on the right side of World War II. That's a good thing, you know, that we didn't pick other allies that, you know, I mean, like, I'm not trying to take a big old shit on the US of A for no reason, but, like, you know, I just want to point out that, like we got something out of the fact that we were Big Daddy for everyone. Like, you know, we basically benefited from that too. And a lot of it wasn't really so much to protect them. They're just kind of under our umbrella, you know, just by virtue of them, you know, being on our side of the world conflict.
Sure, I agree. They've just recently upgraded it as of 2018. As of 2018, they like literally like quadrupled their contributions. No, we were though. Like, no, look at the numbers. When you start talking about percentage of GDP, first off, the United States is literally the largest economy in the world. So percentages of our GDP is significantly higher than everyone else. Number one. Number two, not spending the stuff just independently on your own military, but contributions to NATO. Some of them were literally doing less than 1% of their GDP to NATO, while the United States was doing all of it. It was absolutely absurd. The numbers were ridiculous. Like simply saying, yes, they've like increased their amount. No one's going to disagree with that. They did increase it. And that actually came, I hate to give him credit for it, but by way of some of Trump's bullying, where it's like, yo, you guys have to start doing more. And as a response, because you're saying like, we'll pull out of freaking NATO, which would have been like the most ridiculous thing to ever do. Obviously just such a terrible idea. But by him putting that pressure on them, then they did start contributing more. Like, and that did happen. Those numbers were absolutely absurd. Like, don't look at just the numbers now. Look at how the numbers have changed, and still just look at like the contributions. I think the actual number was 75% of NATO contributions were from the United States. That's insane.
Right. Correct.
No, it wasn't just 60. In 2011, we were 75%. That's the exact number. In 2011, we were 75% of all NATO contributions, for sure. In 2008, we were 50%, and by 2011, we jumped up to 75%. That's an absurd number, considering there's 28 nations there. 28 nations, 28 sovereign nations, and we're 75%. You cannot say that doesn't have like an insane benefit on their economy and their ability to focus more on their own independent infrastructure, and not even and again, on top of like our NATO spending, our percentage of spending on our own military was significantly high. Like it's significantly higher than every other nation in the world. In fact, at one point, I remember them saying something like, if we were to combine all of the other nations of NATO in and compare their military to their military spending to ours, the United States eclipsed all of them combined. So the idea that we weren't Big Daddy USA protecting all of these other nations is just absolutely true. And then it allowed other countries like Norway, Sweden, and Finland. Okay, then it allowed other countries like Norway, Sweden, and Finland to get together and then say, "Hey, we're going to go ahead and create a pact between us, a trilateral military agreement that we're going to have between us three, even though Sweden and Finland aren't part of NATO." So then that means now, if anybody messes with Sweden and Finland, Norway got their back, and if anybody messes with Norway, U.S. got their back. So then at the end of the day, it gives them like a proxy admittance into NATO without any contributions and without even having like a non-committal like proxy involvement there. I think that was a little bit of
come on, do you really think we were going to let Sweden go down to communism?
No, we were not, thank God. But I like the fact that we're doing that. I think communist China and I think freaking Russia are both absolutely insane. Like China's literally doing genocide in their country right now. Like it's wild as freak. So the idea, like they're literally doing forced slave labor to pick cotton. So like, yeah, the idea that we're gonna ever like take our hands off and let China have anything, like what we're letting them do to Africa is absolutely absurd. But it's because the U.S. doesn't care about anything with black skin. But yeah, so I'm not saying that like what we were going to do was not. It was gonna be a good thing regardless. But it's just the idea that like what we do in this country, like we always want to demonize this country. Like leftists always want to talk how bad the U.S. is. But if we look at biotechnical advancements, like the U.S. is responsible for more biotechnical advancement than literally the rest of the world combined, because we spend that much more money. The next country is less than 16% of their less than 16% of all biotechnical, less than 16% of what we put out. The second best country in the world for biotechnical advancements. And that is a benefit, because when we make these advancements, those other countries then get our stuff and then start using that stuff for their citizens. So they're getting the benefit without the subsidies, without like all of the other compromises, without the spending. It's absolutely absurd. US is like Big Daddy United States of America. We live in a freaking great country. Like it is absolutely great. Do we do absolutely atrocious and horrible things? Yes. What we've done to Native Americans was stupid. What we did to Hawaii was stupid. What we did to the Philippines was stupid. What we did to the West Indies is stupid. United States has done awful, terrible, horrible things all around the freaking globe. But I just hate the fact that we only focus on that and ignore all of the insane good that the United States does.
I know.
I said the U.S.
You said U.S. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so you think about like having things perspective. It's great to say what's the alternative. So if you think about we have America on top, well, what's the alternative? Complaining about Europeans aren't spending enough on military spending, that's a valid point unless you think about the alternative. There was several hundred years where the Europeans were armed to the teeth, and those times were not awesome. So then the punchline was Nazi Germany and World War II. So we now have a entirely different Europe where they basically just fought themselves into ruin. And we are now in a position where we are stepping in because they spent centuries tearing themselves apart and they're just over it. They just had beaten themselves to death and were ready for some other force, to basically, occupy and pacify, which is what happened. So yes, Europe could do more. They could buy more weapons. They could arm up again, but maybe this is a better direction. And yes, you could say America does provide stability and it's great that we're doing it instead, but it also takes us 10 minutes to run through all of the terrible things that we did to say, but we're better than China or Russia. That might technically be true, but we should really never let the fact that we're the better alternative be enough. Like we should never get comfortable with that. And that's all that I would say is that it's true that we are a counterweight to worse things, but we've lined our pockets doing it. A lot of terrible things have gone on under that name of at least we're not the Nazis or at least we're not the Russians or whatever. We've let a lot of shit slide under that kind of defense, which was the same thing with like the Democrats and Trump. They're like, well, we got to stop Trump. Anything's okay as long as we stop Trump. Like once you kind of get into that mindset of, well, this evil is so evil that anything is permissible to stop it, it's easy to lose perspective. So all I'm saying is that we should never let our standards slip. And yes, other people are worse, but that doesn't mean that we should be really, really bad because other people are worse. We should always
Yeah,
strive
and-
to be our best selves.
I think
And I
that
mean, like,
standard is just really fucking low too, right? Like the standard of like, oh, the absolute evil is like enslaving half of the population, killing the other half, and then going on a fucking imperialistic march across Europe. Like, really? Because we're not that. We're just not fucking. Yeah. I'm sorry, I cut you off.
No,
Oh,
I'm,
no.
I'm done.
After, let's see, we're gonna go to Kay and then Jola and then GKR, or if anybody else has anything else after that. Kay?
My position on this is overwhelmingly no. I don't think that the United States is really in any position to be telling other countries what they should and should not be doing. I mean, who are we to involve ourselves in issues in other countries, like amongst themselves, and say that we know better than what is going on in these countries? Yes, there are atrocities going on in other countries. There are horrible things that governments are doing in other countries. But who are we to come in and say, like, we got this, we're going to handle your shit? And then we're going to benefit like shit tons of money off of getting involved in something that has absolutely nothing to do with us. And on top of that, while we're benefiting off of getting involved in issues in other countries that have nothing to do with us, we're ignoring the shit ton of problems that we have in our own country. I think that there are certain things that, you know, there's a list of things that need to happen, and America ignoring what is going on here in their own country while also going over and policing other countries and telling them what they should and should not be doing is incredibly problematic. And I think it was Art Black that like kind of hinted at the fact that like we're not doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. We're not doing this because like we genuinely care about the citizens of these countries or the atrocities that's happening. This is all a big money grab. It's just to line politicians' pockets and continue to profit off of it. And I think that that's like a huge issue that also needs to be addressed. Like the fact that like this isn't because we actually genuinely care. There's not anybody that is currently sitting in the United States government that's like, we need to go over and help these people. Like, no,
But
it's
we
all a
do,
big money
though.
grab.
No. But we do though. Like that's the thing. You can't say who are we to do this because the answer is we are the largest contributor to NATO. Literally being Big Daddy USA for the rest of these other members of NATO. We're also literally the largest contributor to the World Health Organization. We spend a lot when it comes to sending food and other resources around the world. We literally which was mind-boggling to me because it was in like a COVID freaking thing. We literally sent $8 million over to freaking Iran for gender studies, or was
it was Pakistan, and it wasn't gender studies. It was for gender equality things. So trying to get girls into schools.
Yeah, but the part of that was like literally specifically a study on part of that involved a study to determine the outcomes that were happening as a result of gender to try to see if these things could be offset.
Yes, but the conservative narrative is that it was going to like liberal institutions for like gender studies degrees. That's the only thing I was correcting. Misconception.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that.
Yeah, no, I know, but I'm saying the audience might not know exactly that that's the case. That's all.
I respect it. But the fact is, we do a lot. We do a lot of harm. What we did to Cuba was atrocious. What we did to Haiti is absolutely mind-boggling, and it seems like almost no one knows about that. It's crazy as freak to me. Again, we do a lot. We do a lot of bad things, but like the question of like, who are you to do this? And it's like, I don't know. I mean, like if we really look at what the United States does, the benefits of the rest of the world, when it comes to all of the benefits they get from our biotechnical advances, when it comes to the World Health Organization and how much they help the rest of the world, when it comes to NATO and obviously how that keeps Russia and China in check, for our two biggest threats right now, like we do a lot when it comes to our charitable organizations, when it comes to like our charitable organizations in other countries, when it comes to feeding the poor, feeding and so on and so forth. In the middle of pandemics, the United States is typically the coronavirus, I feel like almost distorts our understanding of the role that the United States plays when it typically comes to these kind of things. And the reason why that is because we had Trump who was literally just denying it. But the United States is typically the big brother anytime any sort of problem happens anywhere else in the world. That's why the United States typically feels like they have some sort of incentive or some sort of authority in some sort of situations to be over there, to tell other countries or to get involve ourselves in other countries. And we recognize if we don't do that, it creates such insane amounts of problem. If we don't step in very often, now we weren't the largest contributor when it came to World War II with Germany, right? Like we weren't, that wasn't our biggest contribution, although we were involved there. If we didn't get involved in that war whatsoever, we might have had an entirely different outcome. So it's very, very often that the United States does play such a pivotal role in the development of the world. So I think the fact that we involve ourselves, like sometimes it is like, disgusting in the way that we do, but sometimes it's absolutely necessary. And it sucks to be on this side of the world where we can see these outcomes and then distance ourselves from it and say we shouldn't be doing anything when we can't see what would have happened in God knows how many of these situations if we didn't intervene.
I don't think anyone's talking about like just general intervention. I think we're just talking about like America coming in, waving our dicks around and saying, yo, we know what's best for you. Fuck your leaders, fuck your people, fuck everything you might think about yourselves. We're gonna like take control and install our own puppet leaders, or we're gonna take control and like fucking run this area until we've extracted the resources and shit. I think that's what people are talking about. Like,
okay, so if we frame it in that way, yeah, of course. I mean, I don't know. I don't think any person can disagree with that, but I don't feel like that was the original framing.
I think America's kind of got this like, for lack of, no, I'm not even gonna say it. So it's kind of got this diametric polars on it. We at one point we want to be like world police and going through and running shit because we're just the biggest dude on campus and we're just going to run everything because that's who we are. Fuck you. That's why. Right. And then on this other hand, we have this situation where the United States is actually kind of this moral somewhat bastion of where we want to like intervene in genocide, where we want to intervene in maybe stopping a communist country from taking over another country. Somebody's got a lot of feedback. Oh, okay. Well, no problems. So, but yeah, so for example, the 90s, pretty much every intervention in the 90s was a good intervention. We stopped a genocide in Bosnia and Herzegovina. We stopped a potential genocide in Kosovo. We stopped another country from being belligerent. We stopped Saddam Hussein from going into Kuwait and taking over Kuwait. So these interventions were positive things. But and Korea, you can go back in history. Korea was a positive intervention as well. But then we have a slew of this other stuff where it's us trying to be like, no, we wanted our material interest to be put forward. So let's dispose of the socialist government and reinstall the Shah in Iran, and so on and so forth. So I think we have this like we need to focus on both of those things to get the fuller picture of what the United States has done historically. And I think a lot of people don't do that.
I totally agree with everything you said. No, that's it. I'm just saying I agree.
True.
Yeah. Who do?
The problem with Americans is we're victims of our own marketing. Like we have this idea of like truth, justice, the American way, this kind of mythos we built up. But we learned that, but we don't learn history. So like we can look at us versus Nazi Germany and say, wow, it's a good thing that we won. But we can't get ourselves to look 100 years prior to that and say, oh, as far as the Native Americans are concerned, the Nazis did win. Like they got exterminated. We just wiped them out and took all of their stuff. And what we get credit for stopping the Germans, nobody stopped us. We just won.
I mean, like the biggest point to that is like fucking studying it, it's like, oh yeah, the one thing you learn in like a fucking history course is like everything the fucking Nazis did, they got like from America.
They even came over in the 20s and
like
studied
almost
us.
everything they did, you could point to some shit the Americans did with the natives or African Americans or some other group.
Yeah.
And exactly the eugenics shit, they got that from America. There's a reason we fucking stopped after World War II. We realized it wasn't a good fucking look.
And just as the weird way history played out, we wound up being the better alternative. And because we believe our own marketing, we've actually have, as a nation and as a people, we have slowly gotten better over time. And while America has done terrible things, we also have the capacity to grow and get better. And we, while screwing up massively along the way, at least are working towards something better. Well, we should give ourselves credit for that. But it's so hard to contextualize that when people refuse to look at the past honestly, and then they have this warped view of the present as well. So it's unfortunate because we really are capable of being better, and we are getting better and doing better. But my God, just try to have an honest conversation sometimes, and for those of you with hair, you want to pull it out.
Still happens.
Till the 1930s, it's still there. We still have the slavery. What are you talking about? Like, it's literally the 13th Amendment.
Yeah. He's talking about a specific thing. Sorry. It's so true.
All right.
It's so true.
Anybody else got anything else?
Okay,
Yeah,
one more
this
thing.
topic?
Yeah, you just got to realize the big one, the fucking Nazis. We didn't even enter the war to save the Jews or anything. We entered the war because like Japan attacked us first, and we're like, yeah, no, that's not going to stand. Like,
people didn't. To be fair, though, people didn't know about what was happening with the Jewish people until we got to Germany, until Russia got to Germany. To be fair, just to piggyback off of what GKR, sorry, man, was saying earlier about lefties and foreign policy and stuff. I'm old enough to remember when the left was still free Tibet, and it's really disgusting to see them try to be Chinese apologists now. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay. So for the last topic, this was suggested in the chat. We always do the last topic from the chat. This one was suggested by Aiko Rules. She wants to know what you guys think your political blind spot might be. I know over time, like, we all got more and more integrated with or used to minorities. Trans people have been the new blind spot that we've all kind of awakened to. Gay people before that. I wonder sometimes if maybe furries are going to be the next thing, like if that's a blind spot that I don't think much about. We'll start this one off with with Pyro.
my biggest political blind spot is motherfuckers who like just won't open their minds like a little bit, like the window when it's hot but like a little bit cold, you just want to open it a little bit. Like, I can talk to people who disagree with me. I can understand people who disagree with me. But when you're just like, no, you're just fake news, man. There's nothing to it. You're just lying to me. I'm like, bro, what the absolute fuck? And those are my moments of weakness when I'm like, you know what? Get them out of here. I don't care how. Just get them out of here. Helicopter rides, I don't care. Train, I don't give a. Get them out of here. I don't want to see them. Unfortunately, that's like a lot of people in this country. So like that's my biggest hang up, having to deal with the large sect of this country that just isn't in tune to it. And when they are, they're just like, yo, fuck everything the mainstream tells me because they lied to me that one time. The McRib was never coming back.
Okay.
It's 2021. I'm still waiting for that fucking sandwich. It's not coming back, folks.
All right, let's.
Wow.
Hopefully, somebody's got something that's not a meme. Let's go to
That was not a meme. That was
to
100%
Jola.
true. Like I added in the joke at the end, but this 100% true. I don't know how to deal with those people, and like it's a lot of them. So like, the fuck do I do for like political effectiveness? I have to talk to them. I have to hear what they say, but they're fucking dense.
Okay. All right, Jola, go ahead.
In general, I think a lot of us on online discourse, we do have a hard time talking to like normie people who are not political fanatics, who don't obsess over politics and know every detail. And a lot of that is a rhetorical battle. A lot of it is stuff we don't consider whatsoever. For example, like people on the left talk about like we need to ban fracking right now. But if we banned fracking in the northeast of the US, for example, a lot of people, due to energy costs, would be driven into poverty because of that, because of heating stuff and all of those issues. And also stuff like electric cars. Not only are they bad for the environment, it's like a virtue signal if you have one, but that hurts poor people. And I'm not sure anybody here really pushes that forward, but I see that a lot with progressive circles. Like, oh, we need electric cars. We need to have all these good environmentally friendly things, but they're ignoring the reality of how this policy develops at the state level, at the local level, how it's implemented, and how it's actually going to, how the externalities are actually going to affect people. So I think really bringing it from the idealist perspective to a more pragmatic perspective is probably my biggest blind spot still that I'm trying to fix.
Okay. Kay?
Okay, I'm gonna probably get a lot of shit after this, but I think that as my like political views have evolved over the years of being involved in political activism, I've been a political activist for 7 years now. I think my political blind spot is religious people. I really, really struggle. I think like having come from being a traditional Christian conservative Republican to now being a more progressive pagan libertarian, I really, really struggle with people that cannot differentiate that separation of church and state being a two-way street and wanting to put their religious view on absolutely everything in political discourse. It drives me absolutely insane. Like, I respect your personal religious views, but whenever we're talking about how we're going to function as a society and specifically how we're going to function like politically, there needs to be that separation there.
Okay. We'll go to no comment chick and then City Cat.
Okay, so we're talking about what's our one blind spot that we feel like we need to work on in terms of politics, something that we're not paying enough attention to that we should be, right? Did I get that correctly?
Yep.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what it sounds.
Okay, so I would say that based on what I was seeing from my chat as soon as I like took a little bathroom break there, I feel like I got way too many tankies in my community. I'm gonna have to purge the place. Holy shit, that was like a bunch of cringe. Like all this guerrilla gang shit. Who's this infrared person? Who does anybody know who this is? Like I've got gorillas and fucking suns and like USSR flags. Mentions of Juche. I don't know. I think I have entirely too many tankies in my community. I don't know how they snuck in, but I got to get rid of them. So that's my spicy take. Tankies out.
You need to start. Acting like a tanky then, and really build that community up.
I think that if I'm really hardcore in terms of purging them, that would be a good way to disincentivize that sort of thing in the future. If they just know that I'm going to come down with an iron fist on them if they keep posting tanky memes in my chat.
Send them to Gulag.
What the fuck, chat? What the fuck?
What you need to do
Oh my
is
god! Can somebody ban them?
build
Somebody
a wall.
ban them. What's going on in my
and have the
chat?
tanky
I'm losing
pay for
control. The mods, they got the mods. The mods aren't with me anymore. Oh my god. No, I've got a lot of problems here. You go to somebody else. I gotta clean up my community. Apparently.
Were those Chinese flags that they just put up?
Are they Chinese flags? I can't tell. I thought that.
Yeah, while you were gone, they
Yeah,
were
that's
just
what it looked
spamming.
like.
They
the
were posting like
Chinese
hammer and
flag.
sickle earlier. Yeah,
Looks like-
I don't know.
oh,
Like,
hammer and
chat, I'm in an
sickle,
infinite
okay.
regress here. What am I supposed to do with this? What do you want me to do with this? Holy fucking shit. I can't believe things got this out of control,
It's like being the leader of a country, stepping out and then
I think
coming back to
I think
revolution.
I might be able to shed some light on what's going on with their comment chick. So there's a tanky called Infrared, and he's kind of yeah, he's been around. I don't know for how long he's been around, but he's debated Vosh and debated in quotes the Vosh and Destiny recently, and he's been known in both of those communities to come and spam that community beforehand with gorillas and sun emotes.
Oh my god.
And spam about infrared and debating him. So that might be what's happening to you right now.
Well, it sounds like I got a debate after this debate. So
Do it.
Do it.
we'll talk to Infrared afterwards. Okay.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of, I guess, my political blind spot, I'm pretty far left. And I struggle a lot with like internalized misogyny that I'm still kind of dealing with, and how I think it's around. I think sex workers is probably my big thing. Like, I'm a huge supporter and everything, but there's always like, especially with my family and the way I was raised, it's always like, oh, but like those people are below me, and I need to get over that because I don't actually believe that. But there's always that little thing of like prejudice that has been ingrained into me, which is, and like I remember back when I first joined Twitch, I was one of those people who would be like, oh yeah, no, titty streamers on Twitch, man, those women they suck, fuck those women. And it took me like a second to be like, what kind of fucking feminist am I? Like, these women can do whatever they want. They don't deserve any hate. And I think that I needed to get over that. That was something that I needed to work on myself. And I think obviously American centric issues can be a bit of a blind spot for me. And being so young, things that are like older is a bit of a blind spot for me as well. But I think what's important is being able to recognize them and work on them with blind spots.
Okay. Fanatic, what you got for us, man?
Yeah, so I think my biggest blind spot is like literally just global politics. But I don't know, I guess I feel like in a way it's kind of intentional. I feel like it's kind of, it blows my mind how much interest and how much interest in information everyone like intentionally gathers about the rest of the world. Meanwhile, within our own country, like the propaganda, the anti-black propaganda, and the abject failure at civil rights within this country for simply African Americans, I would say it's just mind-boggling. It's wild, and like every regularly, I'm constantly learning even about my own black history. Like it's wild to me like how distant I've always looked at, like, you know, Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, and then like eventually learning like, wait a minute, my mother was like literally 14 years old when they made it legal for interracial marriage, or the house that my grandmother bought was like bought before they had signed the Civil Rights Act allowing blacks to live in white neighborhoods. And like so recognize my dad, I just found out in Florida, we went to Florida at the beginning of this year. My dad drank from a freaking blacks only fountain. And so, like, recognizing how uninformed it was, I still know literally nothing about Martin Luther King. I still, man, I just learned about like how atrocious Bill Clinton was for, you know, the African Americans in general. So, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure I just have a whole lot of blind spots. But so my biggest blind spot would just be global politics. I've just even recently started undertaking that. But the more I'm learning just about Black history and all of that, it's almost like somewhat offensive to me how much stake everyone puts into all the politics everywhere else in the world, and leftists like claim to be like the most compassionate people on the planet, right? But then like they do so very little. They barely hold the mantle when it comes to like African American civil rights in this country, even though African Americans have been done like such great codified harm in the US. It's insane to me.
Okay, we'll go to GKR, then Art Black, and then Jola. Yeah, Art Black.
Okay, so my blind spot, and this is me being on this like arc from being a conservative from back in the day to being slowly and gradually more and more left, till I've now fallen off the edge of the map. But my problem is, it honestly, it's dealing with actual like long-term people who've been in the wild, like marinating leftists. Now that I'm kind of arriving here, I realize why I spent most of my time as conservative arguing with liberals. And it's because leftists are a disaster. Like, if I could figure out how to make them more effective, because I've been studying and reading about politics for a very long time, and I've slowly just come to the realization that everything that conservatism is built on is just wrong, and much of liberalism is well-meaning but also wrong. And you just have this unfortunate, like, past that part on the spectrum of people who actually genuinely do have a grasp on a better future, but they go about it in the most horrifically backwards and idiotic way. Like, if, for instance, if you have a hammer and sickle anywhere in your profile, you're basically just saying, I don't care if we ever win. If virtue signaling, this is just LARPing for me, and I'm just playing dress up. Like, I'm going to get my Russian
if
furry
I
hat.
have a hammer and sickle on my profile, it'll be because somebody hacked me.
Well, okay, but you know what I'm saying? Like, but I get that you're trying to say that, you know, you've read some theory and you have these views on capitalism, that we should progress past it and yada, yada. I get it. Like, I get what you're trying to say, but what you're actually saying is you're just being an edgelord. You're just trying to show, like, you know, how hard you are. And it's just virtue signaling. It's not actually anything that's going to be persuasive. Like, if you actually want to look at people who are persuasive, look at fucking fascists. Look at what these guys who are actually out there recruiting doing. They care. If they get 20% of you, even if the other 80% isn't into their ideology, they'll take you. Leftists seem to go out of their way to cut anybody they can out of their circle, and it just blows my mind. But it also explains how hard it's been for leftism to progress in America, and a lot of it's just self-inflicted. Just leftists seem so intent on not letting anybody in if they can find a reason to exclude them. And that's where my, I guess, blind spot is. I don't know how to craft arguments around that, because they're looking for reasons to cancel you if you try to craft an argument around it. So that's
Purity test.
Purity test. Yeah. Where'd you get that, man? Where'd you get that?
I stole it from Art Black. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be serious, but I had the ability to put it up, so I figured I would while he was talking.
Well played, sir.
Art, do you
We'll
see
go
any
to-
irony though in like the claim that like leftists are the ones that are, you know, cutting other people out, considering that like leftists have been the one to be cut out of our political process for like years and years and years, to the point of, you know, McCarthy. I mean, you know what I mean? I agree with you. There is like I know who you're talking about, and they fuck with me too. I absolutely agree with you. But it's just like, you know, like I don't want to accidentally feed into any right-wing narratives in the process.
I totally hear you. I 100% get. Unfortunately, the left has got it from both ends. You've got the right and the center, who, like, that's kind of the joke. The liberals hate leftists more than they hate fascists. Like, you have this like
True.
wall from the center to the right that hates the far left, and then you have the far left that hates the far left. So unfortunately, you can't win. And that's what I struggle with, is like, and it's unfortunate because you have people who are putting expediency and actually putting like a better future ahead of other considerations. But once people realize that there's that element of truth that they're working at that actually is legitimately good, it's like a drug. It hits them. They're like, no, like, that's all I want. I don't want any of this impurity. I want the purity. And yeah, you're 100% right, though. The vast majority of the problem has been outside forces causing problems and, you know, trying to marginalize the left. It just, for me, I that's one problem. The other problem is just the left trying to marginalize the left.
Okay, we're gonna. Yeah, probably.
Oh God, yeah. It's infinite regress.
It is.
Oh
It
my
is.
God, we
hate
finally
them
got
more.
there, chat. We got actual infinite regress. Yeah.
Yes.
I have to stop hating the left because the left hates itself, and that makes the left bad. So I should hate it, but it's bad to hate the left.
Listen,
So I
we
shouldn't.
can have
Alright.
a few tankies as a treat.
Alright.
There
We're
we
gonna
go.
we're gonna go over to Jola, and then I think the last one is Cypher after that, and then we got one
Yeah.
more topic that was just sent to me as well.
Sweet, let's do it.
Wait,
I already,
I also
talked about
have
my
a
blind
question
spot,
for Cypher. If we can come back to me at the end, that would be
Yeah,
great.
definitely.
I already discussed my blind spot, but I totally agree with
Oh,
the political pragmatism stuff, and also trying to devolve the freaking culture war. It's so annoying. And you see Bernie Sanders run a great campaign, a very idealist, and he does a couple things that are somewhat politically pragmatic. And all of lefty Twitter has a stroke, like they have no idea what's going on. Like, how dare he do something that's political? That expediency. But yeah.
Well, yeah, I think the topic that was sent to me in Discord just a minute ago was, when do leftists take it too far, almost to the point of racism or bigotry by themselves? So that's what we're gonna get into after Cypher. Go ahead.
So the question is, what's the blind spot, right?
Yep.
To make sure. All right. I would probably say my blind spot is probably more Black history, to be honest. I know that I try to be as knowledgeable as possible on everything. I'm wearing my data nerd shirt, for fuck's sake, right? But I do not know a ton of history from with Reconstruction and the lead up to where we are now, and I don't know much theory. I have my bookshelf's full of theory. I haven't read a damn fucking thing of it. So those are probably my two blind spots.
Didn't you said you wanted to address something in the chat just a minute ago?
Oh yes, thank you for reminding me. So I fucked up. I said that the United States didn't know what was going on in Germany, and that is wrong. We did. We, as in the government, some people in the United States might have known what was going on, but not maybe the extent of it. So there's some cross chatter link there. So please do not put my head on a pike. I fucked up. Apologize. I'm correcting the record right here.
What am I
now.
supposed to do with this pike now?
I mean, we can have other fun with it.
Yeah, we'll go to City Cat then. City Cat had a question for Cypher.
Yeah, so this is a question from my chat for you, Cypher. I've had a few people calling your beard glorious and talking about how beautiful you are. And someone was someone was asking if you cut your own wood. If you're like a lumberjack.
I am not a lumberjack, but I do like to garden. I live in Texas, so we had a giant cold snap come through, so all my plants died that I was starting, so I had to start over. But I'm trying to plant some tomatoes and radishes and things like that, and started a little garden bed. So
okay, so yeah, we'll talk about when does the left take it too far to the point of bigotry, racism, or anything else. And I think Mr. Fanatic might be a good one to start with on this.
Oh, sure. I mean, if you insist. I think the left infantilizes this quite a bit, man. There's like Biden just recently was in an interview where he was just like, man, blacks really don't have the internet. They really don't know how to use like the phones to figure out how to wait in these lines and things like that. And his delivery was like hyper infantilizing. I agree with the idea that absolutely like a lot of information is kept from from blacks and just minorities in general. For example, a lot of people had no idea that if you had COVID and you went to a hospital, the federal government will 100% pay for all of your hospital bills. Did you guys all know that? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, they've kept it from us all. So it's really wild. I only learned about it when there was a story where basically there was this guy who wouldn't go to he went to the hospital, was waiting in the waiting room, but then was like, man, his hospital bill is going to be insane because of COVID. Then went home and died. And he died because he didn't want a hospital bill. And then the article, they listed like, hey, here's like what the federal government has agreed to do, and they will pay for all of your bills, yada, 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 thanks to this, whatever, thanks to this COVID relief thing. And it's just like, wow, yeah, so they kept that from us. Like we are uninformed about that, but I don't think that's a black only thing. Specifically COVID, yeah, for COVID related things. Yeah, sneeze in my face.
This is a COVID related injury. I tried to get COVID and I broke my leg. Fix it, please.
Yeah. Yeah, but no, it's kind of insane. Like when you think about that, like, yeah, that's gross. But I'm sorry. In general, I do think absolutely that sometimes, but I don't think it's just the left. I think the right does it too. I mean, I've always heard the talking point like from the left where it's like, yeah, man, black people don't even have IDs. Like, again, I'm 100% opposed to voter ID laws. I know why they're created most of the time, and it's absolutely voter suppression. But the response talking point isn't black people don't have IDs. They don't know where the DMV is. Like, get the frick out of here. That's not the talking point. It's that the intention is voter suppression, and that's why we're going to try to not give them any room here.
I have literally
Yes,
never
yes.
heard a liberal said
Yes,
that. I believe you.
I have
but
to agree
Wait,
with
what?
the fanatic here. I've heard people like in like lefty circles when they're talking about how
Jesus
horrible
Christ.
voter ID laws, it quickly goes into like, yeah, there are some areas where like black people don't even have IDs, and it's just like,
Come on.
It is
Well,
like
so
this
then voter ID
minute-
laws racist then, like, or do you guys not have a problem with
no,
voter ID
literally,
laws?
Of course I
fanatic
have a
just
problem
hold on,
with
wait,
them.
fanatic just said it right. Like
Yeah.
we all recognize why voter ID laws are terrible and how they're implemented, but like when you're talking to people about this issue, and then the
Yeah.
immediate thing they jump to is like, yeah, black people aren't even prepared to enter real life. Dude, just fucking call me a slur. I'd rather you call me a lazy N-word than like be like, oh, I have to take care of them because they're babies who don't know how to do shit. And like the one that came to mind for me is like the Gorilla Glue girl. Feel sorry for her situation, but it does not take a rocket scientist to realize, yo, maybe Gorilla Glue isn't a big substitute for hair products. And the one argument I've seen is like, yes, but black women, they have been forever using like weird products and shit for the hair. And it's like, yeah, but it's fucking Gorilla Glue. I wouldn't put glue
God, these
near my
people are
head,
so
period,
fucked.
let alone Gorilla Glue. There's a reason like the meme is Gorilla Grip, right? Like Gorilla.
That shine was nice though.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
If you want your hair to hold for like 2 months, but like the infantilizing of like, oh, black people have never ever done anything wrong and it's all because of their social conditions that made them really stupid and poor, and I'm just like, yo, fucking stop it, right? Like,
Yeah.
half of what you said is true, but Jesus fucking Christ, we can take a little bit of responsibility, just a little bit, you know.
Agree. But it sucks. You don't want to say that out loud. Wait, what happened?
Oh, that's a fucking good
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I fucking saw
Yeah.
that. Like, a lot of people were just like, oh man, that's a real shame because black people just aren't educated enough to know that Bernie Sanders is good for them. And I'm like, yo, you just called
Yeah.
black people stupid because they
Yeah.
didn't vote for you. Maybe they just didn't like fucking Bernie. You ever thought of that? Every old black person I've talked to, they're like, yeah, no, I just don't like that Bernie Sanders guy. It's not his policies. It's his fucking person. I don't like his personality. I don't necessarily
abrasive as
agree
fuck.
with that line of voting, but like to say that they're fucking, they're not educated enough. They've been duped and swindled. Like maybe
No,
1/4 of that is true, but like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
100.
If the Republicans
thing
didn't
they're
hate
buying on
minorities,
so
they'd never lose an election. Like you
Yeah,
have like
that's
you
true.
Hispanic, black.
agree.
There's so many conservatives in this country that be happy to be Republicans. It's just that they're not wanted.
Yeah, it's facts. Well, that's 100% facts.
At least for the next 10 or 15 years or so. Generationally, there's a little difference, but yeah.
It's wild.
So I
So
guess
what
I
we
don't. I guess I don't understand the argument then, because that's the only argument I've ever heard is that like black people
I can explain
are
it.
less likely to have transportation and they're less likely to have the ability to get to a DMV to get a license because like it's harder in inner cities and
I mean,
things like
Tom,
that.
I don't think it's all that complicated. It's kind of like it's not like all it is like these things are reverse engineered, right? So when there's a rule that gets
Yeah.
instituted by Republicans that are like, we really need to make sure that our vote is secure and everything, it's always like they go into it and they figure out, all right, how can we cut black people out of voting because we know, or how can we cut whoever it is that we know is going to vote against us out of voting? And so they go like, okay, like if you live in the city, you're less likely to need a license to drive around. You might have access to public transportation. They just figure out a way to get like a little bit more of this group than that group in that group that they cut out, and there they got it. They've got like, there's 500 votes in the bag every single time.
Yep.
There's 500 people that we're gonna disenfranchise from the process and stay a viable party even longer, even though the vast majority of the country has like outright rejected us. We are not going to go down to third-party status because we are fucking gerrymandered in there. We are literally fucking grandfathered in there, right? You know, I mean, like that's what this is about. That's what the voter ID shit is all about. It's not, you know, it just happened to be, you know, that the voter ID impacted this group and this group differently. I don't know how that happened. No, it's designed.
Yeah. And no, go for it. Yep. Yeah. To talk about, no, that's fine, man. Everybody has been adding great things to this. Don't feel bad if you cut me off. Seriously, everybody's participating so well here. To answer your point, Tom, though, one of the issues here is that there was a study done that said like Black people are 15% more likely to not have a driver's license or a valid state ID. Right. And so liberals, normal liberal folk, not people like us on a panel that know the fuck we're talking about, but like normal liberal people are like, oh, well, then that must mean that a lot of Black people don't have IDs and for whatever reason. And so you get these people that don't really understand what the study is that they're reading and they read it in the news. And so they go make those arguments because that's what they took away from it.
Okay.
Yeah. It comes off as patronizing as fuck, and it is patronizing as fuck.
It is. But here's a better example, though, right? So remember the North Carolina law? That was one that was really amazing to me because in that specific law, the Supreme Court they struck the law down, and they said that they had targeted African Americans with almost surgical precision. And the reason why they said that was because the legislature in North Carolina asked for voting habits by race. They asked for data on voting habits by race. Then once they got that data, they found that Blacks did out of precinct voting pretty often. So then they literally banned out of precinct voting. Then they found out that Blacks were likely to carry these specific forms of ID more so than everyone else. So then they banned that specific form of ID. Then they found out that Blacks were more likely to early register to vote early as opposed to other people. Like it was like 60% of 60% of early registration and early voting were African Americans, so they restricted early voting. Then they found out that like a humongous portion of the like a disproportionate number of African Americans were registered straight from high school. So then they banned registration straight from high school. So they literally went through, got voting habits by race data, and then went through and literally looked at everything that Blacks did and specifically targeted them, which caused them to say that they literally targeted Blacks with surgical precision. And that was what that thing does. So it's not like, if their idea was just we want to make sure that the vote was fair, then you wouldn't need the voting habits by race, because why you need that specifically, and then you would be fine. But the fact that they went for it specifically by race is indicative of the fact.
That's true.
I mean, like,
that's
to Antiphanatic's point, right?
True.
Like, they've been doing that specific thing of targeting Black people for, like, the specifics of their lives forever. But, like, right after fucking slavery and shit, they were like, okay, everyone can vote, but, like, if your grandpappy wasn't a citizen and you can't read, no. And then, like, they gave him that fucking ridiculous-ass test, like, recite the Constitution backwards, please. Alphabet by number squared or some shit. Like, it's just like ridiculous. They've always been doing it. They just have to update it every few decades, so you know they can.
100.
We're gonna try to get some more people involved, so we're gonna go back to the topic. City Cat, do you have something that leftists bug you on, or they go too far on a consistent basis?
It's hard because I think that a lot of the problems that I have with, like, I feel like someone mentioned before, like, oh, Joe Biden did this thing, like, where he was infantilizing, Joe Biden's not a leftist. I don't think I would consider that the left going too far left. I'd consider that liberals being fucking liberal cucks. Like, I think the problems that I have are with with people more in that spectrum. I do think that I do think that the left does have a problem with taking like poor people and being like these it's the same thing that they do with like people of color. It's just like, oh, these poor people are too uneducated to get themselves a job. We need to help them so much. These poor people, they're so poor, and we have money and we should be helping them. And they're just too dumb. They're just too dumb and poor to do anything good with their lives. And I think that that can be a problem, is when we take like helping poor people and turn it into kind of like, look how good I am helping the poor people, and these poor people are so dumb. Yeah, it's and I think yeah, and it's I've also seen people do like videos where they're like, look at me giving this money to this poor person. Look at me. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you even filming this right now? Like, what? It's I think I have a problem with that.
Clout chasing.
It's virtue signaling.
I love those videos. I love those videos because, like, I'm a person that, like, if I don't know you and you approach me, like, I might swing on you, and then I'm just imagining like some unfortunate soul who has to sleep on the street every night, and like, oh, I'm being approached by 3 people. One, like, 2 of them are holding cell phones, and one of them has like a bag of the shittiest McDonald's, and they're like, "Here you go from the bottom of my heart." And
You're
like,
welcome.
And I think something I saw as well was they had like a stack of cash and they were like making it rain on the fucking homeless people.
You didn't. No, you didn't.
Yeah, no, I saw that one too. And it's like,
they're on YouTube.
There was one that was a rapper that did that, where he stood on top of his car and made it rain. I think it was like last year on Christmas or something like that, where he made it rain.
I think that a lot of people can, privately laugh at the idea of making it rain on a poor homeless person, but like don't do that shit. Don't film it. Don't post it on YouTube and then act like you did a good thing. It's so weird. It's
because like making it rain on a homeless person is literally like a fucking it's an Onion article, right? Like we could have read this in like fucking 2001. Like T-Pain makes it rain on local homeless lady, bringing her out of poverty, and we recognize why that's a fucking dumb thing. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Trickle down economics.
People.
I'm done with the internet today.
I mean, that's what Trump is doing, right? P-tapes.
Well, so the in the example that like they gave when they suggested this topic, they said that there are schools that are getting pamphlets about whiteness that are being sent home to their parents, and classes that are being taken in like elementary schools about whiteness now. And they felt as though this was going a little bit too far. Jola, what do you think that those things go too far, or is there a point where the left is racist against white people in a very monetary, like in a very small way?
No, I don't. Yeah, no, they are not racist against white people, but I do believe that racial, like, insensitivity training or sensitivity training, I think that is very unproductive. The studies say it's not productive. If you're gonna, like, for example, I'm in a college right now. Last semester, we had to sit down for a 2-hour course on not doing microaggressions. I think a 2-hour course, if you're gonna make a bunch of college kids sit down, or if you're gonna make a bunch of people who work for a company sit down, they should give a 2-hour seminar on like the sociological background of different groups in America. Because I think if you are truly going to understand like how to approach these situations, you're not going to want to be like, oh, I don't want to offend this black person. Are you okay, black person? Did I say something that hurts your culture? Because that's what ends up happening. A bunch of white people are scared to talk about issues, and they patronize a lot of black people. They don't ever get an understanding of the actual issue. So I hate like racial sensitivity training. Doesn't work. It's a virtue signal. It's another thing to replace actual progress.
Yes.
White savior.
Yeah.
Fucker. Systems.
It's an industry, isn't it?
It's an
Yeah.
entire industry at this point, yes, and it has been
Basically.
growing since the 80s.
And it works this way that like the company A says, listen, I saw company B get in a lot of trouble for some racist shit going down. I don't know if that could happen to us, but let's go cover our ass so that if it does happen, then we can be like, hey, we paid for DEI training. We had Robert D'Angelo come out and do our little PowerPoint in 36 slides. I'm going to teach all these white people not to be racist. And all she does is fucking posts cringe. And like, basically, if there's any people in that company with right-wing like views, they're now like activated. They're now feeling this excuse that it's coming down to them from the institution, that they're being forced to accept these things. And it's just like, it's such a fail on so many levels. And the only people that are making money from it are the people that created this industry for basically buying indulgence. Like, this, like, I mean, like, I'm not trying to echo the right wing's corporate wokeness thing, like the idea that the corporations actually do hold these beliefs, because they don't. It's all about money. It's all a scam. They don't actually care about the issues. They care about looking good and they care about making money.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Tom, I'm gonna make this entire panel hate me really quickly.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
The left is absolutely racist towards white people. Like, it's just, there's no denying it. Like, I hate, one of my biggest hates is where black people make this statement that black people can't be racist. I feel like that's a form of infantilization too.
True.
It's just not true. White people are absolutely demonized. And now that I've started recognizing what white guilt is, because I recognize how much internalized racism and black guilt that I was carrying, when someone helped me the first time I encountered it, was like, I don't understand what's happening. And someone's like, that's white guilt. And I was like, what is that? I've never understood it. And they broke it down and I'm like, oh my God. Okay, now I totally get that, because I know when I have black guilt. And the idea that the left doesn't go out and really demonize white people. Like she's not the only person talking about distance yourself from whiteness, right? I'm not making a conservative claim where it's like, well, when black people do this, we can get away with it with white people. But absolutely, the left will literally demonize literally just being white. It happens pretty freaking frequently. Black people, we can be racist too. There's no doubt about it. And sometimes we are racist towards white people. That video that Vox did or whatever, where it's just what are things that white people are good at? And it's just appropriating and blah, 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 blah. All of these things racist, that were it was absolutely a racist video. Who was that? Yeah, but it was okay.
Yeah, it wasn't
I don't remember who it was, but whoever that was racist. I'm sorry. That was racist. Now, do I understand why that's happening? The real reason why that's happening is because, a lot of times, not black people, these things are true. White people, some white people, not all white people, some people in positions of power have absolutely appropriated things, absolutely taken the credit for things that they didn't necessarily do. They have silenced other voices and other things like that. That has happened. And I think the fact that you would try to apply that towards an entire race of people is absolutely insane. Black people that were going around after George Floyd's death, having white people get down on their knees and kiss their feet, kiss their shoes and stuff. Do you all remember those videos?
Was that BHI though?
I don't know. Whoever that was in those videos, it literally made me cringe. I'm like, I don't want that. What the freak is this? That has nothing to do with healing. It's just disgusting. We do a lot of nonsense. It does happen. So the idea, that the left isn't racist towards white people. Now, I get that the right takes it too far. I get there is no white genocide. Right. I'm not going there, but the left is absolutely racist towards white people freaking often.
I'll agree with you. I had conversations about this just recently with a couple of people where I felt like if it gets to a point where somebody says something they discount what you're saying by saying that's such a white take, or you're so white, and to discount what it is you're saying, then at that point, I would say racism is bigotry based on skin color. And so, I would say at that point it is racist. Cypher, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to come out and just say that the left and academia in general has no fucking clue what marketing is whatsoever. So when academia talks about whiteness, they're not talking about literal white people. They're talking about a culture that was created out of desperate groups that came together and under the banner of quote unquote whiteness. And that's what's being corrected, right? So it's the whole Western chauvinism thing. It's the whole other cultures are inherently inferior because they didn't go through the Enlightenment period. Like these are the ideas, what they mean by less white. But if you go to Joe Schmo down the street and be like, hey guy, why don't you be a little less white? Why don't you go over there and fight your whiteness? People are going to look at you and like you're a fucking idiot and want to punch you in the face. Justifiably so, because nobody has any idea what these terms mean. I have been fighting on these kind of things for the past like 8 years. Pretty much as soon as I got on the internet and learned about like critical theory, and I was like, oh, this makes sense to me. I've had to just dive deep into it and just like go to a task with people, and it doesn't break through at all because of the language.
Well, I mean, Joe, you just had a black man tell you that it is racist towards white people, and I don't think you're allowed to disagree with a black guy when it comes to racism. Is that
cringe, dude?
Jesus Christ.
Cringe.
Have you changed your mind here?
No, what Cypher said is 100% correct. Like academia is like, oh, white privilege. It's such a dumbass way to get your point across. You're not talking to people where they are. Like I compare it to like these complex, like my friend is a math major at a Ivy League school or whatever. So he's doing these complex like equations and shit. These huge complex equations on the chalkboards that he never understood before. When we talk, even right now, our verbiage, the way we're talking, is meant for people like us that are political junkies, that may have some academic experience, that have a lot of political experience in general. If we talk to a regular person, it's going to be like we're talking of a foreign language. So I do agree what the left does come off as racist. It does come off as if white people are under attack. But I do also think the right-wing propaganda machine wants to drive that. They're trying to make it seem like that no matter what. They want to make sure there's no way we can connect these concepts because that's good for business for them.
True. But we have to acknowledge that the language isn't out there in the public, at least not until very recently. So if you talk to somebody that's 45 plus and you tell them, hey, why don't you address your whiteness? They're going to look at you and be like, I can't.
So like, here's what
anybody that says that is a moron. And that is how a lot of people on the internet communicate because we're on Twitter. We have 211 characters. Yeah, it's bad.
Here, we're gonna go to Pyro real quick, and then we'll go to K, and then Art Black.
So like I'll say this in like this little bit in defense of academia. Like I 100% get what you're saying, but like it's not in a vacuum where they're just like, yes, white guilt and all this other shit. Like talk to any fucking history professor and ask them what does white mean in a historical context, and they're gonna give you a funny look and then give you like a 3-hour lecture about like how back in the fucking day different races didn't go by white and that some people just didn't like it, like they've had different names for each other and shit. But like
they'll talk about Irish people.
And I do agree with the point being said here. Fucking leftists don't know how to do rhetoric or shit. Like we still have like disagree with it if you might. You 100% valid. We have leftists like we're gonna reclaim the hammer and the sickle, despite like 105 years of like McCarthyist propaganda. Bro, move the fuck on. Like, get some new shit. Like,
it's just onto that Juche shit. Seriously, it's much better anyway.
And, like, this is kind of like that, where like leftists want to be like, yes, we're the high educated hoity-toity. Look at my pipe. And then, like, they do this shit, and it's like, bro, you have the facts on your side, but you're presenting them in a way where it's just easy for everyone to be like, you're full of shit and being racist.
All right, let's go to Kay.
Okay, I'm going to take the time to redirect this conversation away from racism, because I'm labeling this entire conversation as bait, and I'm not falling for it.
It is bait. It is bait, and I took it up.
That's what topics are supposed to be.
Oh no.
Okay, let's K give your take.
Oh boy.
Don't do it.
Now that's bait.
Just kind of like moving back towards like where like I think the left takes it a little bit too far, because I don't think that they just do it with racism. I think that they do it with sexism too. And like
True.
as a feminist, I really seriously cannot stand when radical feminists turn feminism or any conversation about like making life for women in general better into like just we hate men and men suck and you need to acknowledge the fact that your suckiness is why women are so incredibly oppressed even in today's day and age. It's not productive. Like it adds absolutely nothing to the conversation, and it's probably, I would actually contribute that widely to why like the incel population is growing so much in the United States right now, because like we're radicalizing these little man babies into thinking that all women are out to just like eat them alive, and it has seriously damaged the conversation that we need to be having, not just in this country but like as just like as a human species, about making life easier and better for women and seeing women like equally.
All right,
So,
real
like, I
quick.
wanna add
One
something on
second.
that real quick.
One second.
Okay.
City Cat's got to head out. City Cat, if you want to give a last take, shout yourself out real quick.
Yeah, I just wanted to say really quickly, I don't trust anyone here. All of y'all have scared the absolute hell out of me. Like Kay just then, she was like, "I'm a feminist," and I was like, "I do not trust that." I'm just like all of you are sketchy, and I'm scared.
Super sus.
But it was a lot of fun coming on. I really hope that I can come back again. It would be good to have a smaller group of people where we can. I really want to argue with some righty people, and this seems like a good space for it.
Oh yeah.
If we can have some more like topics that we can munch about. You know what I mean? That we can yell at each other about. Yeah, but thank you so much for having me on. I do have to bounce. I'm the City Cat. I host a little stream over at my stream at 8 p.m. EST on Tuesdays. Yeah, so come around if you like. Yeah, follow me on Twitter. Follow if you like cute cat girl pics. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
Bye,
for
guys.
coming, and for sure we'll set up an abortion conversation
Oh, yeah, dude.
sometime, and we'll definitely get into it. Thanks for coming on.
Me? Yes, I am. I was actually just on a debate
Ooh.
right before this.
Hang on. Can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Hey, I
Feminist,
love you.
libertarian, anti-abortion.
No,
Just
no,
saying.
exclusive.
Just saying.
Hey, I love you, Kay. You're the best. Yup.
Bye, guys.
Yup.
See ya.
Pro life, baby. Protect
Wow.
them, babies.
Okay, we're gonna go to Art Black and then Pyro.
Okay, we're still on the lefty racism thing.
I think it was moved over to like.
Yeah,
just in
you
general.
can move it right back to racism. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, and we'll take it in both directions: racism, sexism. As far as like what you guys were talking about earlier, as far as exposing people to ideas like, racism is more of it's a white thing than a black thing. You guys understand the argument, right? No one's saying that like if you're black, you can't be bigoted. You can't say things about white people that would be awful
They're
or
saying
terrible.
they don't. They're using the power plus prejudice equals racism argument, and I think it's stupid.
Well, and I understand that, but the reason that argument is being made and that they're trying to change the discourse is because, at a real practical level, if I, in a predominantly white neighborhood, call the police on somebody who I think shouldn't be there because they don't look like they're from around here, that has power implications that doesn't exist were I to be in a neighborhood where it wasn't predominantly white and someone called the cops on me. When the cops roll up on me, I have a very good chance of talking my way out of it in a way that, that is not going to be in any way detrimental to me. There's very serious repercussions. I mean, this isn't just theoretical. I mean, this is what the country's been operating on for hundreds of years. So to dismantle that, at a certain level, you do kind of have to understand that the fact that there's prejudice plus power is relevant. I mean, that's the problem. I mean, the prejudice by itself certainly is an issue, and we shouldn't encourage prejudice. And that's where, to loop back to what we were talking about earlier, sometimes the left kind of runs a little bit wild with it. You have leftist feminists hate on men and kind of go overboard with it because, well, they're men. They're cis white men. Like there's a certain, kind of a abandon that they just kind of, people will run with it because like, well, there's no power here. And the left literally unlearns their own lesson. Like what they're trying to teach the right, the left then decides that they are going to just kind of run free with and just not bother. And the whole point isn't that power is the problem. It's that power is half the problem. It's power plus prejudice. So you get people that will run free with their prejudice because they're correct in saying that, well, there's no power here, so it's different. Well, yeah, it is different, but still not good. Like, you still shouldn't do that. And the problem is, especially considering your target, which again, back to cis white men, there is nothing in this universe as sensitive as the emotional state of a cis white man. If we could take that material and make it into condoms, those things would sell like never before. Like, there's nothing more sensitive. So I think that you just have to understand what you're actually trying to accomplish here. You know, you want to create understanding and learning, but you also want to show that you're on the right side. And if you portray yourselves as people who are totally okay with bigotry, as long as there's no power attached, you've missed the fucking point. Like, the entire point of the message has been lost because you were so deep into one half of your message, you've forgotten the other half. And the left 100% goes wrong with that a lot. So that's the point.
100%.
Oh, I was gonna. So like, to hit on like both Art Black's point and Kay's point, because like I like the fact that she brought up feminism with this and all that stuff. Because like the big problem, like, yeah, they'd go so far in hating men, and it's kind of like a pendulum, right? The right has been hateful towards pretty much everyone, and now like the left is gonna be hateful towards straight right men. And like when Kay brought up the feminist and sexism, like the one thing that stood in my mind is like, one, yeah, they're 100 okay saying shit that like would be sexist if I said it to a woman. And two, they really don't give a like that whole like, yo, you got to respect people's boundaries and shit when you say to them and how sexual you are. Look at fucking femboys. The moment a femboy enters a chat, it's all fucking gone. Like,
That's harassment.
It's horrible sexual harassment. Just like they don't get taken seriously like at all. Like any word that comes out of their mouth, like the next response is something overtly sexual. I can't even do a fucking funny example because it's that bad. It's just like, yeah, Art Black was right. They've gone so far on the other side of the pendulum that they're like, yeah, no, now it's okay for us to do it, but like against the people who we thought were bad. And like they gotta fucking fix that shit, because that's not how. Right. It's just gonna breed even more resentment, and then when the pendulum swings back, the right's gonna be like, well, look at what the left did to us last time.
Yep.
Well, and it's like that because, like, if you call out a radical feminist, it's like, hey, you're, like, totally sexualizing this dude and making him uncomfortable. It's like, well, now he knows what it feels like to be catcalled on a public street.
Right.
It's like having your cake and eat it, too.
Can
Like,
I add something real quick? So I know that we're all talking about how it causes entrenchment and regression and stuff like that. I just want to say, though, I don't really give a shit. And the reason I don't really give a shit about that is because I'm of the opinion that right now we're just on the other side of the pendulum swing, and we're going to end up moving back towards the middle, and it's not going to go all the way back over to the right hand side of it. I think ultimately this is just a reaction to the centuries of, for lack of a better term, oppression, and we're going to end up going back to middle. People are going to learn from their mistakes, and we're going to end up coming to a new consensus. I don't think this is the death of Western civilization like the right says, and I don't think it's the beginning of a new one like the left says. So,
well, sure, but hold on. I totally agree with everything being said here. This has like been probably one of the best conversations I've ever had in one of these kind of things, because I think I have like oppositional takes typically, but you guys seem to be pretty cool about everything anyway. I like it. The thing is, I totally agree. Yeah. I'll never do it.
Welcome, comrade.
Give it time, comrade.
It's too late. We've already claimed you.
You've already got your state-sponsored sickle and star.
No, y'all never say that. So my thing is though, like I just to touch on what Art Black said earlier, like I guess kind of rebut that a little bit. Like I totally understand the idea that like yes, that I understand what systemic racism is, but the thing is, systemic racism, like that's a qualifier, right? Like it's a qualifier, like systemic racism, but the base word is racism. So when you say Black people can't be racist, that's just wrong. We're not in positions of power to have control or to exert influence over the system to be racist in that way, but we absolutely can be racist. And a lot of times I've heard Black people use that as license to be 100% racist to white people. I'm not going to go through things, I don't want to be canceled, but I've heard Black people, Pyro, you know.
Listen, Fanatic. Listen, I'll cut you on. Fanatic won't give the example, but I will. If you've ever heard Black people talking about fucking Asians, you know how racist we can be. If you've ever heard Black people talking about Muslims and the way they run their culture, you know how fucking racist we could be. It's not like the vacuum of like, oh yes, it's just white people. Nah. talk to some old black people and bring up like Asian culture and shit, and they say the horriblest things. Like,
Yep.
Okay,
holy
you're in
shit.
charge. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. And like one that's not racism, but like no one in the left ever talks about. Fucking black people are really, 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 and I'm gonna add this last one for emphasis, really homophobic. And it just it goes over the fucking head. No one talks about it, and that's like a really big issue. Cause like y'all thought, some of these white people could be really destructive to their, LGBTQ kin. Black people, their first instance isn't like, I'm gonna kick you out. They're gonna fucking try and beat it out of you. They can't afford conversion therapy. They will take stuff from the house.
Oh shit!
I'm gonna beat the power of God into you. Like,
yeah. Sure. And this is
Like,
2008.
though?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Black people are hyper conservative. Black people in general are conservative.
Yeah.
If Republicans weren't so racist, black people would be Republican, bro.
Right.
oh, dude,
Yeah.
Like,
we don't even
hyper conservative.
we don't even like Africans, and like that's the one group everyone's like, yo, black people and Africans, they're like, yo, homie, what's up? No, we fucking hate each other. Like, I don't know, like there's a fucking cultural difference where like Africans will come over here, shit talk Americans, and then African Americans will shit talk the fuck out of Africans and just say the most ridiculous, and it's just we don't talk about it because then we'd have to talk about that issue, and no one wants to.
So, and Fanatic, like you and I actually agree, like it's structurally what we're talking about. This is just like a semantic thing as far as saying structural racism or racism. And I get there's a colloquial use of racism and there's an academic use. And the left has tried to insert this academic use and like overlap it, almost like we're swapping out characters mid-season, pretend with different actors, but like not acknowledging that it's a different actor kind of a thing. Yeah. And that's it. Like we're just say what?
I made a dumb joke.
I agree. Oh yeah.
Well, one of the problems is it does come out, but it's also one of these things that's taken and amplified by right-wing media. So if you don't consume a lot of right-wing media, you're not getting exposed to people. Oh, okay. Oh, right.
I mean, were you guys paying attention to the Twitch chat at all? We were all getting super cringed at because we were saying all these things. So
we're incredibly cringe.
I don't pay attention to
we
Twitch
were
or
being
Twitter.
cringe, but
Yeah.
I'm saying like
help you out of your cringe hole. We're missing. Like people touched on this. People have touched on this before. Like Kay's touched on this, and a lot of you are like kind of around this. But there's this idea of essentialism, and that's like the idea that like racism benefits white people. Yeah, like the patriarchy benefits men. But does that mean that men and white people are like the Dio Brando, the big bad, the like super bad of those respective oppressions? Does that mean that every man, every white person is like you can fully just take out like all the karma of oppression on that one person? No, I mean that's essentialism, and that's a trap that's easy to sort of fall into. So it's kind of like just chewing gum and walking at the same time that we have to do to remember that racism is bad, and it does benefit these groups, but maybe not take them and turn them into a representative of something that they don't entirely represent, even though they benefit from those dynamics, if that makes sense.
And like
that makes a lot of sense to me.
Like this, I don't even know what to call it, because like I don't want to call it like simp culture around this, but like
Hey, we're not allowed to say that word.
the men that like feel a need to like pay some sort of emotional tribute to me because they're men and I'm a woman and just their existence oppresses me for some reason. I'm like, you make me
I can answer this one.
uncomfortable and you need to stop doing that. Like,
Okay, yeah, no. If you make Kay uncomfortable, just give all of your money to me. I'll happily take it. Like, if you're in a poor position where you can't, please don't. But like, yeah, if you got some extra money, yeah.
Does anybody mind if I comment on what Kay just said? So
Go ahead.
So I think a lot of that has to do with people looking to make sure that they themselves aren't lumped in with everybody else that is considered bad. So I like to call it looking for head pets kind of phenomenon. You see it a lot online.
Mhm.
You're like, oh no, not me. I am the wokest of the woke white people.
Not all men.
Yeah, not all men. Like, not me. No, this isn't me. I'm a good person. And they overemphasize the fact that they are, kind, caring. They volunteer at women's shelters if we're talking about sexism, or if they're like, oh, it's the whole one of my best friends is black thing. It's the same kind of thing. It's just from a leftist perspective.
I love how you
right.
called it
Now-
head pets because it's honestly like what I feel like they want me to do. Like,
It is.
Yep.
do you want
Yep.
a cookie? Like, what do you want from me?
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
That's it. That's it.
All right, I just want to
100%.
interject really quick that I totally agree with you, and I just want to say
Ally
yes, the ally cookie. But when you get down to it, you're looking at, do we advance this argument even though we know that it's going to hurt conservative feelings? Like if you say, black people can't be racist, when we're talking about structural racism versus just bigotry. Got it. Like, understand that that's going to offend people and make them angry, but you're making arguments in places where people tend to avoid them. You got a lot of people who just want to pretend that we solved racism back in 1984 and like everything's just good, or the 70s or something, and like it's not a thing anymore. So by injecting this into the discourse, it forces conversations that you have to like parse, like we're doing now. And just this act of parsing it is valuable because it makes people that don't want to have the talk have to have the talk. And honestly, people can be fucking pissed anyway. Let them be mad. Make them have the discussion. Make them think about things that they want to pretend don't exist. And it's going to offend some people, but I think that if you look at all the change that's happened, even with like we were talking about earlier, like homophobia, or like right now we're dealing with like trans rights. This is stuff that doesn't make people comfortable from a certain mindset and a certain like group. Like if they're going to be uncomfortable, make them uncomfortable. Just keep pushing for progress. And sorry.
But can't we do so responsibly though? Like, because to me, it seems like it really actually hurts us more so. Because what you're doing, not you again, what happens when you start using really bad messaging like that and like creating this? It emboldens people. It galvanizes people. Like the alt-right, like literally that is like a big portion of like their recruitment is the idea that like you guys are being disenfranchised, you guys are being demonized, you can't be white, you guys are going to be going extinct in X amount of time, black men are sleeping with your wives, all sorts of nonsense. At the end of the day, if we allow that kind of nonsense rhetoric to like continue to be like embedded into that, then yeah, that all that does is it continues to strengthen those people, and I think that's not healthy. A better way of saying it is black people black people. There are two kinds of racism. Like, I don't know, explaining it better, talking about the fact that there's a difference between systemic racism and regular racism. I think that's the most important thing, because at the end of the day, like just saying black people can't be racist, I think is bad, because I've seen black people be racist and then tell me that they can't be racist while being very racist. And I've definitely seen white people become incredibly offended and like, oh, I know I can't say anything about it because I'm going to be completely demonized and canceled on Twitter and or they're going to just say, oh, I have white fragility and and all these things. And like, and so that by the time they're just not going to say anything about it. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to hold those feelings, and you're not going to be engaged anymore, and then they're just going to go ahead and that. I think that's how we got Trump, because because there were a bunch of people that felt they couldn't speak up. I just think it's unhealthy. Like, why can't we just be honest with our words and be better about it?
I think John McWhorter did it.
One second. We're gonna go to closing statements. You guys are gonna give your last statement. Well, okay, fine. So I will let you do your closing statement first, then, and then everybody can answer from there. We're also going to let some people jump on afterwards. So for anybody who'd like to stick around, we'll have some more conversations going after this. So don't go anywhere. Kay, did you?
I gotta go. I gotta bounce my kids up.
All right, everybody go follow Kay on Twitter.
Sorry, not tonight, guys.
Wait, I was an ally though. What happened?
I barely said anything sexist at all.
All right, guys, I gotta run, but it was
All
a
right.
pleasure talking to you. I'll see you later.
Thanks, Kay.
Thanks, Kay.
Later, Kay.
All right.
Now that she's gone, we can talk about it. I'm
So
kidding.
let's go to GKR. We'll get everybody's closing statements, and then shout yourselves out at the same time. Okay. We will go to Cypher then.
Sure. So you said closing statements as well, or shout ourselves out, right? As well.
Oh yeah, the GKR. Did you shout yourself out?
Did not.
Yeah, he sucks anyways. All right. Okay.
So to kind of piggyback off of GKR statement, I would like to say that I'm not so worried about conservatives and radical or the reactionary right so much. I'm worried about the moderate liberal and pushing them towards the right because of the rhetoric that we use as leftists, and making sure that we do not contribute to their recruitment efforts. So one of the things that I like to say is that it is up to us that understand these issues more than the average bear to explain it in such a way that doesn't cause entrenchment or regression. And I think that's something the left needs to, in general, about a lot of different things, because we talked about purity politics, circle firing squads and all that. Is that something we could all work on? So everybody, thanks again so much for having me on here, Tom. I greatly appreciate these. These are always a great time. If you have not followed Tom yet, please go ahead and hit that follow button to give him a like, subscribe, and share him with your friends. I am Cypher. I am the host and moderator of the Crowdsourced Politics podcast. We go live on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern, doing a news roundup. Everybody is welcome onto the show. It's a call-in show. People can contact me through any method and also be a regular guest should they choose to. Go ahead and you can follow us on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and wherever you get your podcast from, because we are also a podcast. So thanks again.
Awesome, man. Then we'll go over to no comment shit.
I'm just gonna read out Aiko's chat. I called Tom White millions of times, and he didn't go down the alt-right pipeline. And I'm gonna agree with that, and largely with what GKR was saying too. Like, you know, we've said I've shit on the essentialist left a few times, and some of the cringe lefties. I do want us to be careful that we're not reinforcing the right-wing narrative that the left is cringe, or even like some of this idea of cringe. Like, at some level, we've got to look inside ourselves and realize there's a little bit of cringe in all of us. And I want you to, like, instead of hating yourself for it, instead of like wishing I wasn't like that and oh God, you know, it's so embarrassing, fucking embrace the cringe in yourself. And then maybe we can be a little bit more forgiving for the cringe in other people. Because, you know, I mean, sometimes, you know, things that that we call cringe in other people are the things that like make life worth living for them. And, you know, that's kind of like, we got to let people enjoy things on some level. But yeah, I'm no comment chick. I am on Twitch evenings for now. We're going to be moving slowly into the daytime. I'm trying to get myself out of these vampire Dio Brando style hours that I've worked my way into. But yeah, we do debate analysis and all kinds of other content every night, or most nights. I don't know, a lot of nights. I don't have a set schedule, which that's a problem too. We'll be working on that, but come by and see me anyway, and we will be talking about something interesting If it's drama, stick around, even if you don't like drama, because chances are, if I'm covering drama, it's because there's like a real issue behind the curtains that I'm trying to unveil. So that's what I'm all about, is unveiling what is behind all the narratives that we see in the world of politics and culture. So yeah, thank you so much for having me on here, Tom. If anybody in my chat isn't already, follow Tom Foolery and doing some cool panels here. It sounds like it sounds like Cypher's got a show too. So yeah, love to check that out. But yeah, thank you so much, Tom, for doing this.
Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. And I do want to clarify, like, I didn't become racist because Aiko kept calling me white. Like, I found a way to be proud of my whiteness. There's a guy named Richard Spencer that you guys should all look into.
There we go. Based
You're gonna
memes.
get canceled now. That got clipped, dude. You're screwed. You're so
That was
screwed.
like kitty ears there.
All right, Jola. Appreciate you coming on, man. I've been a huge fan of your content. I like a lot of stuff you're doing. You said that you're probably going to run for, I think you said Congress one day or something like that
Wait.
as well.
No, I was talking about state house. I'm hoping like 2024 because I'm graduating in 2022, so I need to get some stuff settled before I take that leap. And things cost money, as sad as it is. Need to do that first. But yeah, thank you a lot for having me on. I was dealing with my computer like overheating and stuff during this, so sorry if I didn't contribute that much because I have my laptop in my dorm room. If you can see the ugly walls behind me. But if anybody wants to have like a more one-on-one discussion about like political pragmatism or progressivism and really break down these topics, feel free to DM me. You included, Tom, of course. Should be a fun conversation. But yeah, thank you for having me on. You can find me at JOLAH Jola on YouTube and JOLAH Games on Twitch. So yeah.
Did you have anything on the last topic?
Just in general, I think we need to take a step back and do our best to analyze these topics from the perception of other people. I do pretty strongly believe the statement that perception is reality. So we should be trying to do the best we can to understand how other people are perceiving things. And we should be adjusting our rhetoric to a format that fits convincing more people to move in the right direction for these things.
Awesome, man. And
Facts.
then I think next is Art Black.
Awesome. So thank you so much for having me on. Total new guy. I stream with Cypher on Crowdsourced Politics. If you're looking for our video content, that sort of thing, it'll be there. If you want to see me harass and belittle conservatives on Twitter, I'm at The Real Art Black. And as far as kind of closing thoughts, one of the things I'd really want to throw out there is that, we think about pragmatism and trying to frame and brand our arguments in a way that are effective. But ultimately, you kind of get the world that you fight for and what you settle for or what gets forced upon you. So when you think about like, hey, if we make this argument, what if that offends somebody? What if that hurts their feelings? What if this causes this or that? Ultimately, when you're a conservative, you have it a lot easier because you already have a world that was handed to you that you benefit from. So all you really need to do is just hold the line. Whereas when you're on the other side and you're trying to progress things, by definition, you need to break shit because there's shit already in the way of where you want to go. And there's, I guess, productive and non-productive ways to do it. But you still need to keep in mind that the idea is to push forward through somebody that's already there that doesn't want you to go there. And as an example, I want to mention that they had a study that was released today about, and this is just an example that for me, looking back, is very significant. But people who are, let's say, like, I think it's like 30 to 55 or something that identify as trans is like it's like a 0.2% or some incredibly small number. But then when you go to people who are like 18 to 30-ish or so, it becomes 1.2%. And then if it's underneath that, like your 16 to 18-year-old, it's 1.8%. You guys, a lot of you, wouldn't even imagine how unfathomable the idea of like trans rights would be like 30 years ago. Like, I just have the benefit of that because I'm fucking ancient. But it's the kind of thing where if you think about how much progress you can get when you actually lean into it and push forward, it's inspiring. And, all of the rights that have been fought for over the last couple of centuries made people mad. It hurt people's feelings. It broke shit. Like, you had people thinking the world was going to end and this glorious civilization we'd built is going to fall apart. And it's just not fucking true. all the progress that's happened has made the world better, and it's made the people who cried about it, they made their lives better too. It made everything better. It really hasn't hurt. So unfortunately, we just have to deal with the fact that progress, we're going to have to hurt people's feelings and make them think about uncomfortable things or have discussions that they're not going to like. And it's too fucking bad. And that's it.
All right. And then next up, we got Fanatic.
Hey, I mean, listen, I'm not one of those people that like, I don't know. I guess I just have like I think my takes are just kind of nuanced in the sense that I'm not like a hyper leftist. I'm not like a super righty. I'm just kind of just whatever the freak. And if you like my takes, or if you feel like my takes are absolutely ridiculous, I heard there were a bunch of people cringing in the chat. I think cowards cringe. Real people actually engage. So if you actually want to engage on any of these conversations, I am more than willing. You can go ahead and bring it. I stand by everything that I freaking said. You can find me at twitch.tv/Mr. Fanatic. I typically engage in these kind of conversation on Prime Case stream. And even if you don't like my takes, I bet you like my music. I just released a single like last week. It's a song called Araya, Ariya, under the name Fanatic, Fanatiq. It's on Spotify, it's on Tidal, it's on Amazon, it's on literally anywhere they sell music. You can go ahead and check that out. It's piano music because I'm a pianist. Give it a listen and tell me what you think. I'm so
You got to be your true self, man.
I actually kept thinking, people keep telling me I'm a leftist, so I took my political compass quiz this week, and I ended up like half of my circle is like over onto the left side. The last time I took it was almost exactly a year ago. I ended up right in the center of all four quadrants. This time I'm a little bit farther libertarian. I thought I was moving left, but I'm moving farther right, actually.
You're moving farther right. All right.
Real quick, in Fanatic, I saw some of your debates with Destiny recently. I think the last one was like about rioting and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked it. It was really good.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to Pyro right now.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, Tom. Like, finally, I got my computer back, so I'm actually able to hop on and join you guys. This was really chill. I like it. I enjoyed all of the takes we had here. Final words on like the last topic. Like, yeah, people might cringe online as hard as they want to. I really don't care if you cringe or whatnot. Like, I think GKR said it best. Like, there's 40 million people in this country. Like, personally, like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to change their minds. So, like, I'm not going to jump the gun and start calling them all this shit until I, assess that. But to each their own. Really good panel. If you want to find me, because, like, I do like just dumb meme debates and shit, subscribe on YouTube or, follow me on Twitch. You can also follow me on Twitter where I'm a little bit more active, but I'm going to start picking up activity soon. Also, the monkey will beat the lizard. I'm just going to leave that there.
Okay. For everybody who's new in the audience, for everybody else who's streaming, I'm Tom. I go by Tom Foolery. I've run panels and debates for a long time. I've been doing podcasting for a long time and now getting into streaming. I'm fairly new to Twitch, but adding panels to some of the stuff that I'm doing as well. And we organize these panels in a way where I know it makes a lot of people a little anxious, but we try to avoid topics ahead of time because then there's a whole lot of research and energy put into winning the debate. And it turns into blood sports, and we try to avoid the blood sports. We want productive, educational conversations. It can be entertaining as well, but over time, I went on a lot of panels on Twitch, and lots of people were just saying, I don't think I get anything from this. Like, I don't think I get anything from watching this. And so I just saw something that I thought maybe I could fill, a void that I could fill here on Twitch by making panels that were actually educational and that people could actually get something out of. So that's why we run them the way that we do and try to go over topics where people can express as much as they want on it. And we bounce all over the place, but that's not an accident. It's not disorganized. This is all definitely on purpose. And I appreciate all you guys coming, man. We had to scramble to get this one together very last minute. I'm so happy that all of you joined. It turned out to be such a good panel today. So thank you guys all for coming. And if any of you want to stay, we got some more people who are going to jump on to talk. So yeah, other than that, appreciate you coming, and you can see yourselves out.
Oh God.
Oh
Before
yeah,
everybody
yeah.
goes, how many
I'm staying.
spots do
I
you
want to stay.
how many
Yes.
spots do you need to free up? Do you need any of us to go?
No, no, you guys are fine.
Okay. I'm gonna get something to drink and I'll be right back then.
I'll
Those are-
stay for a couple of minutes, see what
Same.
people.
Yeah, that was a
walking
really
on have
interesting
to
talk.
offer.
Yeah, that had a really good flow. I liked it.
Same.
This is what I'm trying to build as well. So Tom, just FYI. So I'm greatly appreciative that
Listen,
other people are trying to do this too.
GKR, if you want blood sports, just mention monkey versus lizard to me. I will come for you. I will come for your fam. I will don't. Or which bear is the best? No. No.
True. No, you're right.
No,
right.
it is something wrong. It is something wrong.
Yeah,
I
think you're right.
disagree. I think blackface me is just fucking racist as fuck. Just because once or twice motherfuckers managed to do it okay, where we can say oh, you weren't fucking doing a minstrel show. I don't think that excuses fucking blackface. One or two does not excuse
Well,
the entire.
yeah, you're talking about
Well, no, I'm not even pulling that, right? I'm not even saying yes, because we're black, we already no, I'm just saying in America at least. Yeah. No, I get you.
Wow.
But just in America at least, the history of blackface and minstrel shows and shit, damn. They took a chance and they fucking all fucking divinity was on their side and they fucking pulled it off. RDJ, I'm not even gonna call him racist. That fucking shit. I love that movie, right? But holy shit, we gotta remember there's a fucking long, sad history where not everyone has knocked it out of the park like Tropic Thunder. There've been
Well, there.
Yeah. Well, I think you hit on one of the biggest issues when we talk about blackface, right? For a long part of the minstrel shows and all that in the beginning, it was because they didn't want to fucking hire black people. So what do? You color someone up with shoe polish and shit and call them black, and then you get the fucking terrible shit where it's I'm getting a field hander.
And then in the end, there were black people who actually started doing the blackface as well and actually normalized black people in comedy through the minstrel show. So towards the end, they actually
that's
helped the black community a lot.
That's what we were given to work with, right? If the only roles you're given are idiot slave number one and yo, I'm a black actor of the fucking 30s. God damn, these are the only roles.
Amos. Mhm. Well, and it wasn't just black. Like, there was a movie, a Genghis Khan movie, that John Wayne played Genghis Khan. Like, they gave him like the Asian mustache, like the whole 9 yards. They had Charlie Chan, who's like it was like a 40s detective. It was like a detective serial. They had like a white guy pretending to be a Chinese guy. So there's actually like a long history in Hollywood of just not wanting to cast non-white actors. And then jump forward to the 2004 Wayans Brothers classic White Chicks. Like, there's a different history and different. I mean, to get back to Prejudice plus Power and all that. Like, there's, I guess, is there anything inherently wrong about dressing up, pretending to be somebody else? Like,
I don't think there's something inherently wrong, because like I recently had a discussion about this, like when it's okay to like cast actors that aren't the race of the characters they're portraying. And an example that I actually had to concede the point because I was arguing the opposite, like it's never okay, is like there's this one Egyptian comic book character and they're casting The Rock, and someone was like, is that okay? And I'm like, when I'm thinking about the list of Egyptian actors in Hollywood, the only one I can think of is the dude from Night at the Museum. And the fact that I remember him as the dude from Night at the Museum says a lot. He can play the character, but it's a fucking superhero movie, right? Like, you get the fucking buff Thor types. Like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson don't have to do a lot of fucking work for that.
Yeah, well, what about like so sometimes I understand the history of it and everything, but when it comes to Halloween costumes, the better the Halloween costume, the more the more they look like the person it is that they're trying to be, the better the Halloween costume is, right? Like, that's the point in Halloween costumes. And I don't think that like a little kid who wants to dress up like LeBron James and put on blackface, like, it's cringy, but it's not racist. And it seems as though like people would freak out about this and make it racist when it's supposed to be homage to a black person instead.
No, tomfoolery. The problem is you can do the homage 100% without fucking blackface, right? If I want to dress up as LeBron James, look at me. I am not as dark as LeBron fucking James, right? I'm not going to slather shit on my face. I'm not going to slather.
I started by saying like the better that on Halloween, everybody does their best to get as close as possible to whatever.
But like when we're talking about blackface, hold on, wait. When we're talking about blackface, I can dress up like a white kid can dress up as Martin Luther King, and he doesn't need blackface to be like, I'm being as close to Martin Luther King as possible.
I think you're missing my point. My point is funny you should use that. My point isn't that they should do it. My point is that it's not an homage to minstrel shows. Like, it's not necessarily racist. It's just something within culture that
when we're talking about like Halloween and stuff and kids, like, yeah, we can give the kids the benefit of the doubt, because I doubt
but not the parents.
Yeah, exactly, right. The parents, they don't even need to necessarily know what a minstrel show was to understand, like, yo, sending my kid out in blackface may not be the smartest fucking choice. That's just, the kids don't understand it, and we can give them the fucking leeway because, like, little Timmy doesn't understand the implications of painting myself. Like, they don't understand it; they just see it as face paint. But the parents, like, when the parents are like, "Okay, you're going out as Halloween as LeBron James or Nelson Mandela,"
but are there always going to be implications? Like, are we stuck
Yes.
with always having implications?
Yeah, it's our fucking history.
I think we
no,
will.
I
be.
mean, but for how? I mean, like
Well, I mean, will
forever?
the N word ever be okay? Like, probably not. So why would other things ever be okay?
200, 300 years from now, we can't say. But in the foreseeable future, no, it's not going to be okay.
I'll say, like, if
Fair
we
enough.
don't, like, fucking at least try and address it, like, not even, like, this specific issue, like, the bigger fucking racial issue that I don't want to devolve into, like, until we address that, it's gonna be a fucking issue.
Yeah.
Like,
And
and
that was
just
the point I was
sad-
going to make.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, like, that's just
No,
the
no,
sad
no, you
fact.
go.
Like,
Oh, what were you teasing there?
No, I was just saying, like,
no,
his,
not you, Pyro. He's like,
Oh.
and the big issue that I don't want to get into, and then like kept going. I'm like, whoa, like
the big issue is that, like, every time, like, black people voice up, like, hey, this might be a little insensitive or like just not right, like, fucking America comes down and like, well, no, you're just being uppity, shut the fuck up. And then there's some fucking complication elsewhere in the world where they're like, fuck, we have to give these blacks actual equal rights. Look at every war in American history up until like World War I and shit, and every single fucking time it's like, hey, join our cause and we'll give you freedoms. And then afterwards it's like, who said that? We did.
Was that in your enlistment paperwork somewhere? I didn't. Yeah.
And like they did it to the and it's not just black people.
Yeah, that's
like,
just pillow talk, baby.
Like they did it to the fucking natives. There's a reason natives are in the position they in. It's like every single time America fights a war, they're like, hey, natives, fight for us and we'll do some good shit. And then the moment after, they're like, yeah, you know that good shit we're promised? We're actually gonna do the exact opposite.
Yep.
Yeah.
Cool, walk across the country for a little, and it's just like, wow, yeah, no wonder we still have like these fucking issues when it comes to subjects like the N-word or minstrel shows. We haven't fucking addressed it. We just kind of moved on.
That was Kyle-san. What's up, man?
Is everything all good?
Hey,
Yeah,
Kyle-san.
yeah.
Okay, sweet. Now I can.
All right, I guess it's pronounced Kyo, right?
Kyo. It's
Kyo.
one syllable. One syllable. Kyo. It's Kyo. One syllable.
Well,
That's
I'm
fine.
an
Everyone gets it
American,
wrong.
It's Kyo.
There's not a single person who gets it right. It's fine.
I'm working on it. I'll get it eventually. Kyo.
Oh, there we go. Bang. Fucking on point.
Boom. So what you got for us, man? Are you listening?
I'm just coming. I was just trying to figure everything out, so I turned off the music, the sound for a minute, because I gotta focus. I'll listen back in and I'll hop in when I hear some take I disagree with. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, we were just extolling the virtues of blackface.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, we all like the blackface. So, like, what's your take?
Yeah. What do you? These guys think the two black guys on here think it's racist if you don't do blackface. So
Right.
how often do you guys do blackface?
Anyway, we're gonna go change. So we'll
Yeah,
be right
like
back.
the fact that there are like 4 white dudes in here and not a single one of you are in blackface, really? Yeah, what the fuck?
Yeah, it's doing something. Man.
This wasn't the Black History.
Wait,
But yeah, like until we fucking actually address it or like do something, we're gonna have to deal with this fucking shit for a long ass time.
like,
Yeah,
Robbie Down.
I disagree with
I
that.
wouldn't even say that, right? Like he did it, but like it wasn't because like it was this big, cause and whatnot, and he knew he could do it. There was a good fucking chance, and like we can say from hindsight that like, oh, he's an amazing actor. Look what he did with Iron Man. But like at the fucking time, there was a chance he could have fucked that up horrendously.
Oh, it was supposed to be wrong. Like it was
Yeah.
the right amount of wrong, but it was intentionally wrong. Like that
Yeah.
was
That was the point.
So like I just think like historic if we can't sit here and just ignore the history of like what blackface was. So like just recognizing what the hell it was, it's like I'm not going to justify it. I think it's always going to be bad. I didn't really excuse Robert Downey Jr.'s like usage of it, and I think just the fact that Americans love him so much, I don't think that gives him the right to do it. I think it was offensive when he did it. I think it's wrong. I think making a comparison between like freaking white chicks and the Wayans brothers and blackface is just totally different because of the historical context. I think I'm not gonna. Yeah.
No. I did. But I was being. Yeah.
Oh well,
No,
hold on.
I was being funny, but yeah.
Hold on. So with like Robert Downey Jr., I would compare this to like slavery movies where like they have a slave owner and he is racist and he says the N-word and like it's bad. Yes, he's racist, but he's like portraying something so that the audience understands. In Tropic Thunder, Robert Downey Jr. is supposed to look stupid. He's supposed to look like the clueless guy who just doesn't understand. He doesn't get it. And so therefore he is racist, and they're portraying him as the ignorant white guy who just doesn't get it. And I would compare
I got a question
to those as
if
well.
If a white person uses the N-word to subvert it, is that okay?
I love you, Grog. I haven't talked to you in forever.
What's up?
So what do you mean by
that's because that's what's happening here, right? You're
it?
using the racial trope to try and subvert it. Like, would you be okay with a white person using the N-word to try and subvert the use of the N-word? And like that to me is like an equivalent situation. Like, to me, something that like would be interesting is like when they did it in Atlanta, where like a black kid did like essentially minstrel whiteface, where it's like this like the same like pitch white, like how like minstrel shows they did like pitch blackface. Like,
I don't agree
that's
that's what they were doing, though. I don't think that they were subverting it. I think that they were making him the dumb guy. I think that they were making fun of him for like he is the joke, right?
That-
like
that
him.
was the point.
But they're
Wait,
making him
engage
the
with
dumb
the
guy
question,
while he's
though.
in blackface.
Him thinking blackface is okay was the joke, to say like he's so ignorant he doesn't have a clue what he's doing.
But you're
So,
not
like-
engaging with my question though. Like, do you?
Yeah, sure. So wait, Grau, I'll put one back to you. It's going to be very similar because in the same vein. So Dave Chappelle used to write skits on his channel. It was very like influenced by like black culture and black comedy, right? And he would hire white guys to say the N-word. Now we could probably put this in the category of, is it okay for white dudes to subvert the N-word, say the N-word to subvert it, right? A black artist has written and directed this. I would probably argue that in that instance that it's probably fine, because they're the ones they're making a point with the art, and it's their culture and they've written it and they're directing it, right? Would you disagree? Or
Well,
Can
just
I
because you're
follow-
doing something artistic for money doesn't make it right.
Can I follow up on that?
But listen, I would disagree, and here's the reason why. Because like Dave Chappelle can't speak up for everybody. Dave Chappelle is literally my favorite comedian, and they were different times at the time, and they weren't saying it like, well, yeah, whatever. So like they were different comedians at the time. Oh wait, okay, maybe I'm thinking differently. You're talking about hiring people to say the hard R, not like people saying the soft A.
either the soft A or the hard R.
It was both in Chappelle's.
Yeah, like when he was talking about the N-word family, right?
Yeah.
So okay. Yeah, in those specific positions, like him hiring someone and it being his show, I guess I think it's still a bad idea, obviously, because it is going to be offensive to some people. I don't use the N-word around my dad because he has such a huge problem with it, right? So, I mean, you do have to just be considerate of those kind of things. But at the end of the day, like, you know, I'm not gonna like he did it. Like, I mean, if anybody's going to be able to do it, I think that's probably the only way you're going to get a blessing.
I think if we're gonna talk about like when it's like okay to divvy the power of saying N-word to someone, like fucking context is key, right? Like if you're gonna write a character who's a racist piece of shit from day one, and then like you tactically avoid like, oh, he's racist towards all of like the non-white people, but when he approaches this one group in 1850s America, he doesn't use the fucking terminology. He doesn't do like that. Could be a little bit weird, and it just seems like you're dodging the issue. Art Black brought up a really interesting point earlier about like how it's not just black people. Are like, yeah, even like not even in Hollywood. One of the shows I watched, Doctor Who, they had a serial, The Talons of Wen Chang, and one of the biggest controversies of like instead of just getting some Asian dude to play Wen Chang, they had like a white British dude put on this terrible fucking like racist caricature mask.
When was this?
This was back in the fucking 80s.
Okay.
Yeah. And like and it's just like, yeah, that's a bit fucking weird. Like
So Pirate,
yeah, what's up?
sorry. I was gonna say, to your point before, it wouldn't just be like weird for them not to say, if they're like portrayed as like say like some 80s like southern racist, right? It wouldn't just be weird for them not to say it. It would literally be whitewashing, could be pretending that like racist.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like what? Like
yeah,
I'll bring
no,
up Doctor Who. Well, I'll bring up Doctor Who again. But like one of the things they did recently, right, 2005 to like now. Early on, they would travel back in the past and just like ignore it whenever it's brought up. Like, yo, I'm black in like fucking New York, 1920s. They're just like, oh yeah, well, history was a lot, white, and it's just like, but no, there was still a large amount of that shit. And now it's like they've realized their mistake and like they got the characters actually encountering that shit when they travel back. And it's like, oh, now you're showing some of the problems that can fucking arise there. But like with the stories, it's fucking you gotta choose when and where.
If it's not necessary, if it's not pivotal to the plot, I don't understand why it needs to even like why it has to be. Like if you're just doing if you're just doing a show about like I don't know that involves some sort of like whatever time travel or something. I don't see why you have to go out of your way to like
well, the
display
example
racism or,
the example I'll give right now, really controversial. It's called Rosa. The group travels back in time to like 1950s Montgomery, Alabama, and they have one black companion. He's from Britain. He doesn't exactly know the history of the United States. A white lady drops her purse and he hands it back, and the dude like fucking slaps him across the fucking face. Typical 50s, Montgomery, Alabama shit. What they could have done is just skipped over that completely. But given the like actual story of the episode, that would be really fucked up if like the two people of color companions are just like, oh yeah, no, in this time period, it wasn't a big deal. We're just gonna whitewash.
If the intent is to be historical, then sure, I can understand why. But like,
So my point is just to put a cherry on a cake here is that like people, I think a lot of people forget this, is that people miss a lot of like history and reading and understanding, and it's generally through like media and cultural saturation that we learn about a lot of things, right? So like even if it's like not a plot necessary point, to reinforce the fact that your grandfathers were really fucking racist. Lincoln did own slaves, and he probably did fucking say really nasty things to them, right? I think that like to brush over that would literally just be whitewashing and like look at Lincoln like he was like this holistically good figure. Fred Slade had like no issue at all. Was it Lincoln that owned slaves? Fucking it was, wasn't it?
I think
Washington.
Lincoln,
I don't think Lincoln
owned
owned
Jackson.
slaves. I think who you're
Sorry,
talking
I get my
about.
like white. Yeah,
You're
I get my
talking
white
about
American dudes.
Ulysses S.
White
Grant.
presidents because you're fucking Aussie.
Yeah,
You're
but
talking about Ulysses
you know
S.
the
Grant.
point I'm making, right? Is that like if you don't say it, you're literally just whitewashing, and it allows people to hold these historical figures in reverence when realistically they're usually mixed figures, and when we talk about them, we should talk about their flaws.
Sure. Like, I mean, if you're gonna do a movie like about someone, like, I don't see the reason in making it ahistorical. Like, I mean, I don't disagree with that. My only contention is I'm just basically saying if it's not pivotal to like if it's not a historical show, like, and you just so happen to be casting a black person for a role, you don't have to actually display like, oh, just remember this was racist times too. Like, I just don't like it. It's not necessary in my opinion.
I think it is because people just like engage with culture, and it's like sometimes it's some people's only engagement with racial issues that people can be like so disconnected from politics that they just like don't understand these things, and then they'll see on the rise like, why are these people like bothering to fight for their rights? They're like they legally have these rights. What are you talking about? Right?
I mean, like the one thing people really try and ignore is that all of the media you ever consume will have some of the politics of that time period within them. Like, look at the old King Kong movie, right? Like, it's just a big dumb monster movie, but like you look deeper into that and it's literally like, oh, this nice white lady goes to some foreign island and like brings back this giant savage who falls in love with her, and at the end, like, the killing him is like, yes, this was the good thing. It was Beauty who killed the beast. He shouldn't have done it. And it's like, wow, fucking hell. You look deeper into it and it's like, Jesus Christ, the monkey movie's bad.
I never watched King Kong, so I don't know. But I mean,
I brought up King Kong as an example, but like, like media, politics just has a tendency to leak into all of your media and shit.
This is why conservatives are always like talking about like politics is downstream from culture, and they're always whining about how liberals have control of it because they wish they could like put that shit in and whitewash it, right?
Yep. 100%.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut someone else off.
No. What do you guys think about the whole Bridgerton thing? I've seen arguments online about that.
I think Bridgerton is a really cool show. I do see where the arguments are coming from. Like, instead of doing this weird diversity play where it's like, yo, we hired black people to play the fucking white rulers and shit. There are plenty of fucking black cultures you could have had that show based on, where it's like, yo, the fucking events that happened there might have been more fucking fun to watch on TV.
Do you think it would have been better if they would have just created an entire fictionalized world than using these kind of pseudo historical figures?
No, if they created an entire fictionalized world like fucking Westeros or some shit, I don't give a fuck. It's fiction, right? Like, but if they're trying to link it up with like, this is like based on a true story, kind of, that's where you kind of fuck up. If you're telling a completely fictional story, like,
do what you
Bridgerton
want.
is like some royal. Is it British? Is it British royalty?
Yeah, it's I think it's BBC.
So they basically diversified the entire British aristocracy in this show, and it's very loosely based on like some actual events, very loosely based, but it's still, you can see the things there. Not everybody, but a lot of people seem to like it. But I've seen arguments online saying that, like, no, you should have had it this way because they're historical characters. But if the race isn't central, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like,
You
I don't know.
but no, I see. Why would we do that though? Like, listen, I get pissed. I get very, very pissed when they go ahead and make Cleopatra white. I think it offends the hell out of me. They were literally talking about having Julia Roberts play Harriet Tubman. It's absolutely disgusting. What the hell are you talking about? I was gonna lose my whatever. I was gonna lose my mind. Now, when you want to start talking about like making the Little Mermaid black, nigga, it's a fictional character. Why does she have to be white?
Exactly.
How does her whiteness have to do with the actual character? Like, it literally won't change anything. What's the problem with that? I'm fine with those kind of things. But if you're literally talking about a historical character, like, nigga, if you're gonna sit there and make I don't know, if you're gonna make what was the name of that really famous Buffalo soldier? His mom's name was Nandi. Who's famous Buffalo soldier? Shaka Zulu. If you're gonna have Shaka Zulu played by Edward Norton, I'm gonna lose my freaking mind. Are you crazy?
Yeah, and like that's the thing. It goes into the realism of it. If you're having a mermaid played by a black woman, and like everyone's like, that's not realistic. The depth of the ocean, it wouldn't allow the melanin. Like, it's a fucking mermaid. It's a fish person with titties. Okay,
it's literal magic.
That's real. It's it's fucking magic. The fucking octopus bitch grows 50 feet tall and gets killed by a boat. Are you really gonna come at me about realism? But then like and then you go on to historians, like, then it's literally flipped when you were talking about something that's even remotely real, because it's like, what the fuck are you doing? We know what these people look like. They stood for hours and took those boring ass portraits where they look miserable. Like, we get it, we do. You companies, you love black people, you want to make it look good, right? Create new shows where black people can write the shows. That's the way you do it. You don't be like, well, shit, what do we do, boss? How about we have King George played by Idris Elba? No, that's not the way you do it. Idris Elba, amazing actor. King George. You don't fucking mix up for like diversity points. It literally just makes you look worse. It's obvious, it's blatant, and it's like, bro, just make the white movie. You wanted to do that anyway. No.
It was the best movie I've ever seen. It's the best movie I've ever seen.
See,
Marvel. I was going to say, this depends on whether or not you like Marvel movies or not.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah. We're in a white space.
I get it, right? I get it. It was a great story. I love the story. I love the writing.
You've ever seen.
The fucking CGI was terrible.
Oh,
CGI was always terrible.
Listen, hold on. No, hear me out. All of the fucking MCU, they can do somewhat decent shit, and then like all it is two dudes fighting in a suit, and it looks like PS2 graphics. It looks like your fucking graphics card isn't plugged in, and you're trying to play a video game. Like, come the fuck on. I know y'all could have done better than that.
And the fact that everyone should go watch it. Everyone should go watch it.
It's a good story. It's a good story, but with those Marvel movies, the suspension of disbelief is what kind of holds me in those stories. And the moment the CGI takes me out of it, and I'm like, that's not real.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
In terms of storytelling, yeah, that's fucking like in terms of storytelling, best fucking Marvel movie up there with like what was the first Spider-Man one they did with Tom Holland?
Isn't it Homecoming?
Fuck
yeah, Homecoming. I fucking loved
Homecoming
because like it hit those characters perfectly. Like the villain, literally just a dad who was upset that his construction company got taken over by billionaire Tony Stark and like all that shit. Like, yo, I gotta put food on my table for my family. I just got all this cool equipment because like we got contracted by the city, and Tony Stark's like, no, we're not even gonna reimburse you.
Forget about that.
Spider-Man was a fucking nerdy ass high school.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse literally fixed Miles Morales as a character, though.
You're 100% right about that. I yeah.
And isn't
It's like
is the new one
they
being a
took a
crossover?
shitty comic book character and actually made him 3-dimensional.
No,
which
if we're
is, like,
talking
amazing.
about Spider-Verse, right? Best superhero movie like ever, except for like maybe Lego Batman.
You're all wrong. It's the first Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man done by Sam Raimi. Okay, and I won't hear any dissenting opinions. Any
Listen,
of you
I don't
who are
listen. I love I love that Spider-Man, right? When we're talking about MCU, I gotta separate them. That Spider-Man trilogy. That Spider-Man trilogy, OG, no one's beaten Tobey Maguire or any of that shit, right? But when I'm like dividing it into the studios, that wasn't under fucking Disney or the MCU. I'm sorry.
Okay,
It
Pyro,
sucks.
you're
It
doing a
hurts.
really good job of being political right now. Okay,
I'm doing a really good. I am. I know. This is where it comes out, man.
So we could get some hot takes. Did Killmonger do anything wrong?
Yes, of course. What the fuck do you mean? He did a lot wrong. Listen, you may be oppressed. He had he had the understandable reasons, but the conclusion was like, and now we gonna wage war on the world. No, you're gonna make everything worse. They're just gonna vilify black people. They're literally just gonna say all black people are Wakandan. Get rid of no, that's literally not the way you do it. T'Challa was right. Fucking I'd say isolationist.
Super isolationist, yeah.
And that's where Killmonger was a great villain, because he was that really good foil, right? He had the right idea about what was wrong. It's just like the fucking
American
end goal.
imperialism and
Like fucking T'Challa was like, yo, how about we just like provide aid and financial support? We're like the most technologically proficient nation on the world. They can't really attack us unless they, we provoke them. And Killmonger's like, no. We're going to cause insurrection everywhere there's a black person. Good luck.
But it's like the meme where you have the highest tier of villain is the one with the morality that's superior to that of the hero.
Yeah.
So, and nothing against T'Challa, but he's operating from a basic conservative mindset of like, oh, I was born into this, I'm the king, and this is what I do, and this is how it's been and how it's always going to be, and you're trying to disrupt that without really having much of an appreciation. And Killmonger broadened his horizons and made him think beyond his more limited mindset.
When we're talking about Black Panther, I don't think it was Killmonger that changed his mind, and I'll hold this opinion. It wasn't Killmonger. It was his fucking dad. Realizing how much of a hypocrite his fucking pappy was, like, we're going outside of Wakanda, we're gonna murder this kid's parents and say, fuck them, caused all of these problems. And he's like, dude, if we keep doing this and it keeps causing these type of problems, why don't we try something else? He was 100% willing to be like, yo, Killmonger, I understand why you're upset. Together, we can do better.
Mm-hmm.
But like the mistakes of his dad in the past kind of just set him up on that trajectory. So like I give that to his fucking dad making a mistake with the fucking spirit shit where he confronts him. He's like, yo, all of you fucked it. You fucked up.
I'm gonna have to rewatch this now with that prior perspective in mind, so I can see if I can pick up on that as well. Yeah.
Listen, I remember like the end game, like the late stage villains, because that's where they really started to fucking develop them. Like Vulture, Zemo, like those motherfuckers, they actually had meaning. The like first Iron Man shit, it's like literally Jeff Bezos wants to be even more powerful, and like he's feeling that Musk is competition. That's literally what the first Iron Man movie is. And then, like, you get to fucking Endgame, and Thanos is like, the fucking universe is dying, everyone's suffering, maybe I can fix it. Like, damn! Way better motive than the fucking first half of the MCU.
Okay, so to be fair, here's a hot take, is that, like, in the Marvel movies, most of the time, the villain isn't the villain, right? Like, you can go to watch, who is it? Iron Man 3, right? Which is, like, one of the most underrated Marvel movies. Shane Black did a fantastic job directing that, considering it's like outside of his usual warehouse, where it's very much like a character study. Like Iron Man is the villain of that movie, and Iron Man has to solve his fucking problems, right? The guy that comes in at the end just is like totally inconsequential, and has nothing. And like they could have probably done the whole plot without him. That was just meant to be like a Shane Black movie where like Iron Man had to really reanalyze like where he was coming from.
And like
I think it also took care of the sorry, I thought it also did the PTSD fairly decently as well with that one. I just want to say really quick, and then I'll stop harping on this point. I find it interesting that a panel full of liberal people are taking the conservative side of the Black Panther movie. So with
Not
that.
me. Not me. It's the literal best movie that's ever been created.
No, I meant as far as
universe
if
lore.
Killmonger doing anything wrong. In my experience, a lot of leftist people were like, Killmonger was the one that people should have followed. Fuck these people.
Yeah,
and,
leftists
and
don't think
conservatives
about
are
the
like,
effects of their
Killmonger
actions.
was a tanky.
Yeah, exactly.
yes, I know.
But like to Kyo's point, like, yeah, that's what I like about the fucking Homecoming movie. The villain there, literally just doing what Iron Man was doing, like from the beginning, with like, yo, like I need to make a fucking buck, and there's these super duper space weapon wreckage around. You took my fucking job away from me. I made ends meet some other way. And like fucking looking at that character, I had to fucking ask myself, could I really blame him? He wasn't fighting Spider-Man because I'm going to destroy the world and turn everyone into vultures. It's like, you're threatening my family. I give you one chance, or else I'm gonna knock your fucking suit off. I would do the same thing if it's like, yo, you're threatening the income that supported my family for the last 5 years. I will fucking, in the movie, I will murder you if you get between me and that, right? Like, I can understand that to an extent. Everyone was afraid that Black Panther would. Everyone was just afraid that Black Panther would make the movie, and instead of having Killmonger be the villain, that would just be the mindset of T'Challa. Like, yeah, no, we need to go out here and fix shit forever. And everyone was like, no, we don't want that message because we can't relate to it. And it's just like, they weren't doing that.
One thing I did like about Black Panther is that they did like the bait and switch. It's like, oh, we're gonna have the black guy fight the embodiment of imperialism. Isn't that gonna be fun, guys? Like they could and then they killed it halfway through the movie because like, no, we wouldn't do something at ham-fisted. Fuck off.
I like how they set that up. Like, oh, Wakiti is gonna be the fucking dude who's selling arms to everyone. He's the masked imperialist, and then he's like, oh no, he's literally just like the goofy henchman. Don't pay him any mind. He's dead 20 minutes in the movie. He's not the bad guy here. He was comic relief.
Yeah. No, he's just trolling.
Yeah. No, I'm not trolling. I've had people tell that to me.
Have you
whether or not they were trolling is another story entirely. Okay. I've actually had people say this to me that they identified with Killmonger's position. I got one.
Because this is a big one, like not even left versus right. Just people in general just don't know. Was Thanos right?
No. I mean, he could have just created more resources. He could have made the universe bigger. He could have lowered people's reproductive rates. Like,
I just wanted
to slow down.
Listen, my biggest thing is like, fuck all of that, right? If you're gonna do your magnificent snap, you're right, Art Black. Completely wrong. He could have did any of that. He did his magnificent snap and snapped away half of the resources. Plants, animals, like the shit people require for food, breathing, and like, oh, we're taking that away as well. Peace. I'm farming.
Yeah, I know, like that was the conservative thing. These are the conservatives were like National Review or whatever were saying like Thanos is what environmentalists really want. They believe that the world is overpopulated. I'm like, no, dude. Yeah, we're just bigger Malthusians. Like people that might not know what that is. That's the idea that the world is overpopulated.
I've literally never seen this movie. This just literally sounds like eco-fascism. This
literally that's what
liberals want.
That's what Thanos is. He's a fucking eco-fascist, and then a bunch of people were like, "Hey, maybe Grimace was right. he was maybe if we can."
Oh yeah, so fuck off, eco-fascists. Like
maybe we can assemble the Infinity bracelets. We can snap away like. No,
he could have just snapped to everything doubling and been fine. Like, or like Art said, like
no,
snapping.
We got to take away half of everything. That's the only way to solve things perfectly balanced.
Easy clap.
Thanos was actually the centrist that we were warned about. People.
Has Lasso gotten in yet?
I see their avatar. Oh, hey.
What's up, Wasu? How you doing, man?
Hello, everyone. How's it going? What's up?
Going well, going well.
Did you watch any of the panel?
No, I just got here not too long ago.
Oh, we just finished our panel.
Oh, what were y'all talking about?
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
A myriad of topics.
Well, the leftists, the anarchists have joined the panel. So what's up, guys?
What's the deal with fucking tankies?
I mean, that's essentially what we've been talking about the whole night. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Well, actually,
no one likes tankies at all. Okay, I'm just gonna say that right now. No one. I don't give a shit whether you're right or left. No one really likes tankies.
Oh yeah,
so
no.
I went to look up what they were talking about with the infrared guy. Had you guys seen any of this freaking guy?
He's a fucking loony.
Oh my goodness, dude! He's
Oh,
literally
that
a troll.
That
Watch
has to be a
this.
troll.
This is,
It has to be a
yeah.
troll.
So this is
Oh
like an hour in at the end of a debate with socialism done left. Listen to this. This is freaking insane.
Above in a fucking tower looking down on the gorilla. You're in the fucking cage with him right now, and I'm beating the fuck out of you. What do you got to say to that, my friend? You're losing this debate.
Okay, well, thank you for coming.
Yo, this is premium entertainment.
So you surrender.
This is fucking premium entertainment, man.
Yeah, that dude's a content king. Fuck that dude. I'm not.
So everyone, this is a.
You surrender. Do I accept your surrender? I accept your surrender.
Alpha.
And
another one on the belt. Another cock on my belt. Another one on my belt.
Another one.
Another one on the belt.
Another one.
Another one on the belt. Another one on the belt. Another one on the belt.
He's controlling the mute here. This guy should.
I'm
be
looking at
muting
your
like 5
fucking
minutes ago.
YouTube, and my people are in your
That's
chat. My people are spamming
Look
your
at his
How
chat
does it
though,
feel?
dude. His like this is
So like
socialism done left's chat right here, and dude is seriously like, and then he pulls up a video of Alex Jones for some reason, and I think he hangs up on him. But...
like holy, this is literally like a super villain mantra. My forces are in your camps. They are in your factories. Do you surrender? Do I accept your surrender? That's the question. Not if you surrender. Do I accept it?
It's
Another
like
one
Framework's
on the
Return to
belt.
Monkey. Like this is literally what it is. It's just Return to Monkey, but like Return to Tanky.
Another
Well, they
one
said
on the
he-
belt.
They said that he posts lots of like gorillas in everybody's chat. Like that's like yeah, there they are, all the freaking gorillas.
Yeah.
This is how these fucking metropolitan.
Yo, I have a friend who's an anarchist, and this guy is scared shitless to debate him.
Oh god.
He won't debate him.
I mean, I saw what's his name? Polar. Polar set up something with him.
Really?
Yeah. Well, actually, the funniest clip I saw was from their discussion. Was I'll see if I can find it real quick. 1 sec, and I'll send it to you, Tom, because it's good shit. There we go, Mr. Dancing Spoon. I know he posted it.
Mr. Dancing Spoon.
Yeah, here we are.
I see that name in the chat all the time.
Tom, where are you? There you go. This was the funniest clip to come
We
out of
got
that
a
one.
private chat right over here on the right that you can put it in as well.
Okay.
Let's see.
I think you have to be out of full screen though.
All right, I'm pulling it up right now.
Yeah. So I know that.
So like, yeah, I will agree with you, GKR. Like my biggest thing right now is like, despite all the memes I did on the panel shit, it honestly feels like they promised us so much shit going in. Like, if you get us elected, if you get Warnock elected, we will save your life. We will give you $2,000. We will do this. We will do that. And now that they're in office, it's like, well, we can't really do that, but
no, I'm going to push back on this. They've already smashed through. They've been in office like 30 days. They've already smashed through a significant amount of the list. A lot more of the things have been accomplished and people actually understand or realize because they probably haven't looked at Joe Biden's executive order list. I don't know like to what, I know that was quite nebulous. It's only because I'm seeing like people like, I got really fucking mad on Twitter today because I'm seeing
Oh yeah, no, like
it's not just no. It's not just the money. So like I see people posting that they've already given up on a $15 minimum wage. Like motherfucker, that's literally in this bill, which is going to be passed by budget reconciliation, right? Like people are complaining about.
Like, keep in mind, I started this all like I feel, right? I'm not saying like,
Yeah.
oh yes, this is what Biden and them are doing. They're lying to like, no, this is just a little a feeling I have.
Well, this goes
and I
back
know
to
that-
no comment,
Yeah.
Chick's black pill comment, right? We're all been primed to be cynical assholes,
And
that's
I'm
what's
wait,
going
like
on.
I'm open to being changing my mind. So like Kyo-san, if you
I
have the
wasn't coming
fucking
for you, it's
links,
just that I see,
nah, if you have the fucking links and shit, send them to me directly so I can.
Got him on Twitter. Just follow me, buddy.
Here's the deal. Can I give like a can I black pill everyone a little bit? Can I explain why I've been fucking black pilled? Okay, this is the fucking black pill moment for me, right? So I'm a teacher in like bottom 50 school in Louisiana, which is one of the worst like states in like the fucking union, right? So me as a teacher, I had to sub for a science teacher today who, by the way, has not shown up like pretty much all year. So 7 batches of like 20 kids have had like no science teacher the entire fucking year. And like additionally, everyone in that school, like all the teachers have been teaching for a year or less, like 95% of the teachers there. So like brand new staff pretty much. And like when I looked at like the history textbooks, right? Like, by the way, like around like 80 to 90% of the school is black. Their history textbooks, like in their workbooks, like say like, hey, what's your immigration story? Like, how did you immigrate over here? And like, what's your immigration story and all this other bullshit? And it's like the answer to this question is like probably slavery. Like this is like not good content. This is like not something that's like designed for like the students. And the thing, like, I'm just so incredibly black-pilled about like the situation at that school. And like I hope it gets better, and I hope that like things do get better, and it's just a matter of time. But like until I see material improvements in like these kids' conditions in terms of like being able to actually like fix our education system, like I'm gonna remain fucking cynical as hell. Like honestly, that's where I'm at right now. It's like education to me is like by far and away like the most important thing, and it is not prioritized in this country at all. And like Kyo-san, sorry, one last thing. Kyo-san fucking showed me that Australia has like a website which serves as a national curriculum that any teacher in Australia can log on to. And I'm like, why the fuck does this nation not have something similar? That's
The 10th Amendment.
Bullshit. Yeah, I understand, but it's like it's like materially it'd be so much better and easier for the entire like country to use and like to like have something standard to work off of instead of like just like all the standardized
The
testing.
chat's asking, are you talking about public schools or
Public schools?
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
This is a
Louisiana
public
has
school.
a huge charter school system now, right? After
And it's
after
all
Katrina.
it's dog shit. It's complete dog
it's
shit.
complete shit. So
It
just to
siphons
clarify.
fund. It siphons public funds. Like honestly, to me, the position that people should be taking is just abolish private schools like altogether. Personally, because like seriously, because what happens here, right, is all the rich people get to send their kids to private schools, and then all that money that should go into the public system then gets siphoned off. And the thing is that like if you actually want to fix public schools, you get rich people to put their fucking money into the system, so that way their kids get a good education, and therefore the poor get a good education. Yes. Yeah. Because like
Yeah, this is an issue with school systems in highly conservative areas and not so much in highly liberal areas, because the way the conservatives want to do the things with like vouchers and stuff is that they want the money to follow a child, and then that actually takes money out of the public school system and puts it into the private school system.
There's
That's not
actually
the way to take them
like
about the
Peyton
10th
Manning's
Amendment.
kid. Sorry, Peyton Manning's kid actually goes to school in New Orleans to play football. And like it's an amazing school. There's like millions of dollars invested into it, but it's like all fucking rich people. And like there's like only a few good schools in Louisiana, and it's like a bunch of rich people with their money.
I will say like,
but that happens with public schools too.
Yeah, like I was gonna say,
because
like
of
coming
the
from
way
a
we
liberal,
do it. So.
yeah, coming from a liberal area, like that does happen here too. Like it's not as overt, but like yeah, the poor areas with like the most immigrants in my Western New York, yeah, they have literally the shittiest schools, the shittiest funding, all of that shit, and like the private schools in the suburbs get most of the funding that lend to actual good schools.
The United States
Sorry,
doesn't
I
have
want to
children.
say this.
A better
Chat
solution, though.
made a question here. Why is there so many new teachers in the school? Because all the old teachers retired because of COVID, because they're like, fuck it, I'm not teaching during a pandemic where I could get killed. And it's like, it's understandable, but like now you have like an entire crop of teachers that are just out. And like, if there's no feeder system in place to replace these teachers effectively, what you essentially have is a bunch of ad hoc teachers that are not certified to teach an education that are in there. Like right now, I'm personally getting my certification. Like I'm not certified to teach. But like I have grown up around teachers and my wife is a teacher. So like, I'm kind of lucky when it comes to like my background with this, but like, essentially not a lot of people are like certified to be teaching these schools, and there's a massive drought of teachers in this country. So sorry, like I could go on forever about this.
I think a better solution though is, as opposed to like trying to abolish private school, which is just I think a really, really terrible take. I think a smarter position would be to make the funding for education be per student, right? So in the sense like this, right? Right now, as it stands, like funding for education is by
That's
property
even
tax.
worse.
Hold on. But funding for education is by property taxes in a local area. So then obviously if people are living in an apartment complex, they're going to get significantly less property taxes. And if we have obviously this ridiculous amount of segregation, then you have people in white neighborhoods living in areas where their school is like hyper funded while Black people are not, or minorities are not, especially because we're still dealing with the effects of redlining. However, if you make the funding for the school like, hey, property taxes all go to the state and it's evenly distributed, that means white kids are getting the same amount of education as Black kids are getting, and then you can start
That doesn't work in rural states. So like in North Dakota, for example, right? Like there are schools where there's like 7 students. So like for a school like that, it's like completely fucked because they're no longer getting proper funding because of that system. So like that won't work in rural states.
Has 7 students. What do you mean? What do you mean they're not getting?
So like what
funding?
happens
How
in
much
like
funding
rural
does a school with 7 students need?
Okay, so here's the problem. So like with like rural states such as like the Dakotas, where like a lot of the schools are like cyber, where like one teacher will cyber into multiple schools like to actually teach their classes. So like while that may work for like the cities, it won't work for rural areas, especially in the Midwest.
Okay, so
there's more to
but
teaching.
this determination is done at a state level, so it doesn't need to be done in rural areas. It could just be done at the state levels, obviously, and then that would just fix the problem.
Yeah.
So it's not a problem. I recommend it. I understand why California needs different gun laws than obviously than rural Kentucky. Like, but that doesn't mean that California should adopt the laws of Kentucky, nor that Kentucky should adopt the laws of California. This would work in the cities because the vast majority of Black people in this country happen to live in cities, and that's where it would be the most effective, and that's where the most harm is being done because that's where the most Black people are. Yeah.
So but I gotta say something. Sorry, I have to interrupt because first things first, I feel Mr. Fanatic on how Black schools are being underfunded and are shit and not getting proper education. I feel the brother on that. I truly do. We have indigenous schools that don't even get anywhere near that shit. The fucking schools are just a fucking rotting down building that ain't getting shit. And you'd be lucky to get taught anything except predominant. Well, the white man came and saved us from our savagery. The white man came and saved us. We should be grateful for savagery.
Yeah, but every time you've done this to me, literally every time. I literally said on my stream, right as soon as you started speaking, I like literally muted this and said on my stream, he's going to start talking about Native Americans because literally
do you understand what Eurocentrism is?
If you
hold on.
Sure. But hold on, bro.
You can't. No. You can't every time we're talking. Seconds before, Russian Olympics, and then like usurp the conversation.
A few seconds before, you just finished with Gott here telling him that Black schools aren't getting enough education or getting enough funding to have proper education.
Sure.
And stuff, right? So what makes it that if me mentioning indigenous people being an indigenous person, that our schools aren't getting barely fuck all either, does that make it unacceptable?
It sounds like you're trying to one up. It sounds like you're trying to one up though, where like he's saying, I want to advocate for Black people and Black things and what Black people are going through, and then I think that am I misrepresenting what you're saying, Fanatic? That's
Nope.
what it sounds like he's saying, is that he's saying like, hey, there's an issue with Black people and we could talk, or Black inner city schools, and we could talk about this. And then you're like, well, you think that's bad. What about Indigenous people? We got it real bad.
But like Fanatic's proposed program would not work for Indigenous schools, though.
Okay, so listen. So okay, here's the thing. That's another issue, and I'm willing to talk about another issue. This is literal basic decency. When someone's talking about an issue, you don't grandstand and one up them and then enter into the oppression
I'm not
Olympics.
one-upping,
Right?
bro.
So
You and me need to realize
if a woman is talking to me about one issue, if a woman is talking to me about one issue, I don't then jump in the conversation and say, well, listen, while you're talking about the pay gap, let's focus on Black people for a second, because we're going through something significantly worse, because that's indecent. If you want to talk about your issues, I'm more than willing to engage with you on those issues. But you can't every single time someone goes to talk about an issue, you can't then grandstand and digress into your own personal
Fanatic, you're doing that right now. You literally do not understand the connection between the two. Fanatic, shut up for like 2 seconds. You don't understand.
Bro. We were talking about something. We were not talking about.
Your fight is my fight. And it's been that way same fucking day. We both get fucking suspended.
I'm not doing
anything.
The original conversation
what the fuck are you arguing me about?
Was about what I was talking about, and then he usurped the conversation.
How the fuck is bringing up the same fucking issue in school systems that you're going through, and your people are going through, and my people going through? How the fuck is bringing that up grandstanding?
I'm not psychic or just observant. I literally said it on my stream because I knew he would do it. And it is usurping the conversation. It is a digression.
Wow.
It is dismissal of what we're going through. And it's a problem. Sure. Yeah.
Well, it's an issue. It's an issue of scale. Like if you have X amount of dollars per student, if you have 2,000 students at a school, there's a lot in economies of scale. You can buy a lot more with that than if you have 7.
Yep.
You know, you have a lot that you have to fund. That money doesn't stretch very far. So I mean, in principle, because we have a system that does have property taxes funding schools, what Fanatic's talking about, in general, that's a better way of looking at it. And then you need to subsidize smaller rural schools. You know, there would be some issues there as well. But broadly speaking, even, you know, for instance, coming from like a predominantly white neighborhood, I was still sent to private schools. But the public schools here were superior than other public schools in other areas. So there are tiers of education in this country which are completely fucked. I mean, completely fucked.
True.
So the more we can do to smooth it out, even if it wouldn't be a perfect solution, would still be, I mean, anything we could do to tilt the scales back to a level playing field, even if it's not perfectly level, even Fanatic's like imperfect solution would be a better solution for like most of Americans than just letting property taxes dominate. Like, hey, you're from this zip code, you're gonna have a great life. You're from that zip code,
This is why Americans have a fucking ass backwards. I swear to God, this is what really fucking pisses me off about you fucking Amerimoids, right? Like the fact that you have like this like hard on for states' rights, super hard on for states' rights,
yes.
and that's what's fucking you right now, right?
Yes.
Because like realistically, like what was mentioned before, it's like, oh, we'll take all the state property taxes, then we'll put this out, and we can't have a we can't have a federal curriculum because we have like states' rights, right? Like, all of these issues are getting in the way of, like you mentioned before, economies of scale, right? And doing things at a federal level sometimes is significantly better than doing them at a state level. And one thing that you mentioned before was Cypher that we I'll circle back to it, but it seems like a bit of a derail. But like in terms of like funding, it seems like doing it at a federal level is going to be significantly better than doing it at a state or like even local level. Like it's like local politics are like really good and important, but having like federal funding dividend through down, right? So you can push them from the rich areas and into the poorer rural areas and even the indigenous areas, right? Especially when you have like smaller schools, these things are like significantly important because, like you mentioned before, if you've got like 7 kids and you only have to buy like 1 or 2 books or whatever, right? Getting like individual resources for you need that you can siphon off each of those kids like allowances is going to be very helpful. Just to explain economies of scale for people who probably all understand economies of scale. I just want to make sure chat understands.
Here's
also something that could potentially happen in
our
that
funding
system.
is already done by the federal level already.
I want to also bring up something that could be another issue, right? Is that like in larger schools, right? They'll have more like liquid money to be able to like offer teachers. So like in poor schools, right, there will be less incentive to go into those rural areas because like the funding will not like simply not be there if we're doing it like on a per student basis.
Yeah.
So like
sorry,
it's like the opposite here in Australia. That's the funny part. It's like if you want to earn money teaching, you go rural, you go remote, and you do like a little route around like 6 or 7 towns, and you get all the money that way. There's way more money in doing rural teaching than there is in doing like urban teaching. That's why I think.
So listen, already in the state of California, 9% of our education is funded by the federal government. Now that number can be increased, but it's not like that. There's this like insane separation where there's no funding from the federal government. California also happens to be
like California is significantly richer than like most places of the country.
That's what I was going to say. That was my point. So California happening to be one of the largest, the 5th largest economy in the freaking world, and the largest state, and the largest GDP in our country, it would make sense that our funding from the federal government would, and having the largest population, it would make sense that like we would have an entirely different infrastructure. So this may vary from state to state. Some states actually get a lot more percentage of their funding for education by the federal government. So again, it's easy to have the take of like, yeah, you guys just need to not do things at the state level, like whatever, and states' rights shouldn't be an issue. But that's just ignorance about our political system, because the federal government, the federal government already does very much input a lot of money into our individual states for education.
So Fanatic, the charitable take here would be that like obviously I understand the federal government inputs money. I was actually going to say on my next point, referring back to Cypher, right, that Common Core was actually put in as a curriculum and was forced through by saying that if you don't take this on, we remove your federal grants, right? But how much of federal grants make of those cities, and because like realistically we all understand that like property taxes make up the fair bulk of how schools are funded. We should probably look at, instead of funding them through property taxes and pushing them at state level, we should probably have more of that money come from a federal level, right? That's what I was more saying.
I don't think that's the answer. I think what we should do is the thing that I was suggesting in that like making sure that it's still coming from property taxes. But I'm not agreeing. These things are not mutually exclusive. We don't need to stop education from being funded from property taxes in order to increase the amount of federal funding for education. And again, the problem is not that all schools are underfunded or that education is poor in all schools. It's that education is poor typically when it comes to all of the areas that were previously affected by redlining, and that there's a crazy disparate amount of funding for for education. So instead of us saying we need to stop getting funding from this thing and like make us depend solely on the government, what we should be doing is increasing the aid from the government and doing something to centralize the amount of funding, so to make sure that all the schools are equally funded, so that Black schools are not just getting completely underfunded and Native American.
So I'll give you 3 reasons as to why I think we should move, but I'll let Cypher's had his hand up for a while, so I'll let him jump in first.
Yeah, just to Fanatic's point, I think, and to I think, is it Gao? Is it Grau?
Yeah,
Grau. To Grau's point, I think part of the thing that we need to do, we need to move away from hyper localization and move towards more of a either regional or at least state funding for education. So we don't have, I like to always say that the United States does not have a public education system. We have a private education system where you move determines the level of your school, and that's how it works. So
not to
one
mention
of the things
resources too.
Yeah, and one of the things that Texas is crap. Don't get me wrong, but one of the ideas that they have that's actually pretty decent, it's called the Robin Hood tax. And what they do is they basically take 10% of everybody's property taxes and put it into like a rural education fund in order to try to equalize the spending gaps between rural areas that have basically nobody living there and their property taxes are basically zero, and the more major cities where there's higher property taxes and better school funding. So they try to bridge that gap. It's still crap, and there could be a lot more done, but I think that's some of the things that the United States should look at to address these problems.
Also,
let's not pretend it doesn't. Yeah, that it doesn't matter. In some states, it's a felony to register your kid in the wrong school district.
Yep.
I mean, this is not a small amount of money we're talking about, or the end results are not insignificant. Like actual rich middle class, upper middle class the tier of people who are from professional networks, they understand very well that their advantage rests on having better schools in the competition. And if they can tilt the deck in favor of their kids, they're going to do that. That's one half of the problem. The other half is because you have a variety of states, many of which are not comfortable teaching people that dinosaurs existed without Jesus, that you're going to have this huge resistance to having some federal centralized bureaucracy tell you that evolution might be more than just a hunch, but people might have actually done some thought into it and it might be real. So you kind of have these two forces pulling against each other, and some of them can be liberal. I mean, they can have some very wealthy liberal areas that understand that part of the advantage of themselves and their kids and their lifestyle is built on having education that's superior to that of the rest of the competition. And then you have these other people who don't really want you to read much more outside the Bible, and they don't need you to read much of that. So it's fucked all across.
I 100% agree with you, and I think that's like that's the reason why it probably needs to go federal. So I had it's actually 4 reasons, right? And the first one I'll lead with is you need a national curriculum. You desperately need a national curriculum. Holy shit, you need some level of standards. One of the things that's a massive cost to universities is having to redo the last half of high school to make sure that everyone is on the same level, because some students literally come into university not having a basic understanding of the fundamentals of the course, right? And that adds a massive amount of cost to US universities that don't exist anywhere else, right? And being able to leverage that federal funding to force them to take on curriculum, because like you mentioned before, Cypher, the 10th Amendment does in fact not allow a national curriculum formally. However, you can have something informal like Common Core, where it's basically hey, we've written this thing, you can adopt it or you can lose your federal funding, right? And if you increase the level of federal funding, increase the reliance on the federal government, when you leverage that curriculum, you're going to see more states adopt it, right? The second reason being is that some states are just poorer than other states, by a significant amount. Like you mentioned, Graham mentioned Louisiana in comparison to Fanatic mentioned California, right? There is going to be some affordance of what each state can actually put towards their schools. So what I would argue is that by moving to a federal level, you have that economy of scale that the federal level allows and is able to distribute that money, because obviously that stacks, right? You've got poorer areas who have worse education, which then produce students who don't earn as much because they understand that people with university degrees earn more, right? And then that cycle continues where they earn less, so they keep their families in poorer areas, so they have poorer students. It's a big cycle that runs over and over, right? You've got to try and get out of, right? The other point is that property taxes tend to put, if you just run it by property taxes, or the majority by property taxes, obviously, you're actually putting a cap on what you can have to your schools, right? What people pay in property taxes is what goes to schools. So that means you'd have to raise the property taxes, or you'd end up having a cap on what you could put into schools, right? And what was that level? And the last point is that generally, and I'm sorry if I've gish galloped here. I've got these written down. I can put them in chat, so you want to say the rest of you need to. Is that the federal level has an investment in having educated people, right? Because the country wants, as a whole, to have more educated students so they can be more productive in general, right? And obviously, Raul, we spoke before this, is that we do value some students with degrees a little bit too highly. Some degrees are more important than others seen because of cost, and that's not necessarily what we're talking about. Is we just want to have more educated workers in the workforce, specifically because the US is moving more towards that kind of economy, an information economy, being very good with highly educated students, as opposed to that I don't want to say unskilled, because that's that's a bourgeois word right there, right? But unskilled labor, I guess, is is the problem here. Now, pop those in chat if anyone has any criticism of what I said.
Yeah, do you know the percentages? He's wrong.
What's that?
I would agree with that. But listen, so already in the state of again, I feel like either you're strawmanning, or I don't know what the hell you're doing. We're not, no one here is advocating for the idea that that all of our education has to come from property taxes. That's not the way it's done now. So I don't even know why you're even addressing that as a point. Number two,
because property taxes were mentioned.
Property taxes aren't even the majority of funding, in most states, or at least in the state of California. Property taxes and other local sources is only 32%. The 58% of it comes from the overall state. So and it's not like that. And it again, it varies. Like 9% comes from the government for California, 12.3% comes from the government in the state of Louisiana. So it does vary very much by state. So like this is not the way things work. And I keep asking you this question, and it seems like you're not really answering it. Why are these things aren't mutually exclusive? Why would we need? Why do you keep talking about as opposed to getting it from property taxes, which isn't even the majority of the state funding of the education funding? Why do you keep saying it as opposed to in addition to, or just increasing aid from? Like, I don't understand
what is this. Okay, can I answer this question? Anecdotally.
Oh, nothing. Thank you guys so much for having me on. I'm new to this, but you guys are so gentle. So it was just such a great time. So, but my iPad battery's about to die. I'm about to vanish. But right. No, seriously, like really interesting panel and just just a great crew. So Tom, thank you so much, and I'll catch y'all later.
Appreciate you coming, Art Black. See you later.
Peace.
See Art.
Because personally, I don't believe that property taxes should ever determine like where you move personally. So like anecdotally, right? And anecdote Andy time. My parents decided to move into a neighborhood where they had higher property taxes, so that way I could get a decent education as a kid. I don't believe that property taxes should exist as a concept. I think that the income should come through other means. Because like, well, like here's but the thing is though, is that like, it can create like software.
No, you wouldn't.
It can create like soft redlining districts.
Under the thing that I suggested, that wouldn't even be an issue anymore. So like, why are we talking about it? Like, you can't talk about that in context.
You asked why they're mutually exclusive. I'm giving you an argument why property taxes are bad. Because you create soft redlining districts.
But you wouldn't if you did the thing that I talked about originally. Like, okay, because it sounds like you're ignoring the thing that I posited in order to talk about the system as it is now, and then almost like arbitrarily applying that to this new change that I'm talking about.
We're talking about like how to reform education right now. Of course, we're not going to talk about the system as it is now.
No. You are talking about the system as it is now, because if you're talking about the system that I suggested, then that wouldn't be an issue anymore. If property taxes are still used to collect the funding for education, but that money is evenly distributed per student, and so therefore you don't have a hoarding.
No, what I'm saying is that it creates weird decisions in the housing market. It creates like decisions where people are deciding to move.
I think
it wouldn't, because if the funding is identical, then you going into an area where there's better property taxes wouldn't change the funding, because the school that has better property taxes wouldn't receive better funding because it would be more generalized and equally distributed. So therefore, you wouldn't have an advantage by going to an area with better property taxes in that scenario.
Your guys are just slightly talking past each other. That's all that's happening here. So. Fanatic is basically, just to repeat so that everybody's on the same page here. Fanatic's basically saying, hey, have school funding follow the kids. Don't have it attached to property taxes at all. If it takes $10,000 to teach a kid, then $10,000 follows a kid no matter where they go. It doesn't matter where the money comes from. That's how the schools get funding. There was issues that I think Growl had with that, but it was separate from this general topic that we've been talking about.
Right, because he's talking about like in general, like he just wants not property taxes whatsoever, which kind of plays into his anarchism and all that stuff. But that's fine. But like when it comes to when it comes to this school, the issue that you keep bringing up is no longer an issue. That's not a thing. Like if under this system.
Can I try to restate your point to make sure that I've got it right before I address it? Okay, so that currently we understand that an area's property taxes are generally pushed towards the school's funding, right? Which creates like you mentioned, like redlining, like de facto redlining, where you have like richer areas have richer students who have more resources, right? And poor areas have poorer students, and we understand this negatively affects particularly the Black community and obviously like the Indigenous community, where there's like more concentrations of these people who tend to be poorer and thus have poorer schools, less resources, and repeats that cycle that happened before, right? And your idea is that we take those property taxes, instead of making them for that single school, we redistribute that to the other schools to make sure it's even, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Property taxes are generally done at, maybe I should have clarified this when I went in additionally, right? Property taxes are done at a local level. So on the state level, it's usually like a parish or a county, right? So you could only redistribute it within that county if you're property taxing at that level. Now, if you're saying that like property taxes should be the responsibility of the state or even the federal government, then I'd absolutely agree with you, obviously, right? But you still it still doesn't 100% solve the problem because it's very, very localized with where those property taxes come from.
So the property taxes, yes, the property taxes are typically used within a local area, and property taxes do so much more than just funding education.
Of course,
specifically when we recognize that there's such an insane educational disparity with regards to property taxes, then at that point, just for educational purposes, all other forms of funding that go through property taxes, like as far as working on roads, all other things we can worry about that doesn't have to be addressed. Specifically, only for education, the portion of property taxes that are used to fund education, that thing needs to be localized. And then so all the other issues aren't even relevant.
I mean, we could also maybe look at like cutting some fat from like, the military spending budget. Plenty of other places that we could look at that we overspend all the time.
But when we're talking about like funding schools, like if they all get their funding from property taxes, then we should probably start a whole new system. I mean, I don't have an issue with property taxes in and of themselves. I just think that schools should be funded in a different way to where if you're in a poor area, that doesn't automatically mean that you get worse funding for your school and crappier books and less computers and probably lower paid teachers. And then this is the issue with vouchers, is that, if all the kids go over to a nicer school or they all want to go to the best schools, well, all of the money and funding and property taxes go with them and just make the other school an even better school. But then it's overcrowded, and then it's only getting poor people's funding. And so then that school becomes a crappy school as well because the money per person is going down. So we need a whole new system as to how we fund our schools, because this obviously isn't working.
And while we're talking about it, I was just going to say,
I don't respect you. Have a good night.
So